and also talking about the sub-Saharan Africa with the focus on, West Africa. We have got achievements there already. You can refer that to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Why do nations or regions have to build instant and inclusive payment systems? We seated here and probably every one of us relates or is associated to a DFSP, a digital financial service provider, whether mobile money wallet, a bank, or whichever it may be. And then next year we shall have the same convening like we have here in Tanzania at the same time. And I want to pay someone that is maybe manning the event, and they are having a Tigo Cash or M-Pesa, Vodacom, and I need to pay them. But I have to go through a number of channels to pay someone who has a phone like I do, who calls like I do in their country.
Just a moment, a minute, in Mr. Kawoya. Let me just borrow the other microphone, if you don't mind. I'll just cross over. I feel like I'm not hearing you well.
No, I can't. You will hear me, don't worry.
Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay then. Thank you.
You overlike hearing me now. So someone like us here, innovators, wants to be paid, and I cannot pay them because I have to go through a lot of channels. When I have to go through vendors and vendors and vendors just to allow one payment. Yeah. I borrowed money from Wewole, and I have money on my Mosente wallet. So one is on MTN, the other is on Airtel. But I want to pay directly for that loan that I borrowed. But I still have to first go and withdraw money, put it or send it to an MTN or an Airtel line, and then get it to pay my debt. And that is crazy. But importantly, when it's crazy, it also becomes very expensive. If it is expensive for all of you here that are looking good, then it's very expensive for the farmer that is looking for 20,000 shillings to pay for pesticides. It is very expensive for an individual who has to buy salt of 1,000 shillings and have to budget for it, yeah, and plan prior to buying it a week before. So when we build instant and inclusive payment systems as governments or as private sector, we allow, first of all, cutting down of costs for every one of us. So meaning a transaction that would have costed 300 shillings might go down up to 10 shillings or 30. Yes.
Understand that. It feels like I wanted to know more and more, because when we speak about transactions, and then you are at the receiving end, and then I'm sending to you, there is a lot that happens. At some point we're all complaining, let me just not do that, we can use this. I don't know how favorable that is from what you are telling us maybe right now.
Yes. Rita, building an instant and inclusive payment system, or a switch for that matter, means we are also building interoperability at the same time. So imagine if all of us here, the fintechs, had participated in the season 3 or 40 days for the fintechs, are all subscribing to one switch, whether they are SACCO operators, whether they are micro-lending operators, whether they are aggregators, whoever they may be, and can all allow easy aggregation and delivery payments through each one of them. Of course, leveraging things like the third-party payment initiator, among other things. Okay. It would mean that every one of us here will seamlessly pay anyone, any day, any time, conveniently, without having to have that math and biology.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawoya. Let me cross to Stephen here to share with us what the state of implementation on instant and inclusive payment system is in Uganda, and how we are moving to achieve that particular journey. Stephen.
Stephen.
Yes.
You mean Vincent or?
Stephen.
Okay, thank you. So the status, I think, is important also just to appreciate where we've come from. It's only, I think 2009 is when, still a young man without gray hair in my beard, at MTN, when we started mobile money, being the second country in the world after Safaricom in Kenya. And what that did is that it debunked so many notions that you had to you had to be educated, because now you had my grandmother in Mitiana being able to just know that where is the center, you dial star 165. That time it was 185. So I think we've come a long way in trying to do that. For a bit of context, I think mobile money transactions right now form the bulk of financial transactions in Uganda. Yet you've got banks that have been here from the start of time. So from a perspective of implementation, I think we've seen most of the financial institutions coming on board. Personally, where I am, Centenary Technology Services, our sister company, Centenary Bank, has gone out very aggressively to roll out these inclusive payments. And I think the testimony of 46,000 VSLs, Village and Saving Loan Associations, being under Centenary, the biggest number in Uganda, speaks to the effort around that. Because we appreciate the fact that the guys at the bottom of the pyramid, who are why we do what we do, it's how, it's within our DNA to see how to improve them, have adopted that. So I think where we are right now is that there's still a lot more to be done, especially around security, to give the customer or the consumer confidence that when I send my money, it reaches there. Or that when I have a problem, and I think Uganda was the first country in East Africa to implement a data protection and privacy law. And that speaks to the need in creating an enabling environment. So I think as a nation we are right on track, because if you look at the infrastructure, we have about 30 million mobile phones now according to UCC, and that means that 1 in every 5 people in Uganda has a phone or access to a phone. That's from a perspective of because you need to look at it, and sorry if I'm taking beyond my time, but I just feel like this is a very critical point.
Please go on,
yeah.
In less than a minute.
You've got to look at this from a perspective of demand and supply if we now go to economy. On the supply side, there's been interventions both from government and private sector. We've seen an increase in the internet being brought to Uganda. We've seen an increase in the smartphones. We've seen an increase in the fiber. Now from the demand side, we now need to, as a collective in the room, begin to increase the demand for it, and that is through applications, through things like Wewole, through things like Safe Border now is going into cars, etc. So I think there has to, the status of it is that we must increase the demand we must increase and spur demand for inclusive payments, because from a perspective of the supply side, we are quite ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. There is an experience I had recently that I went to use my Visa card, and then I withdrew the money didn't come. So I had to wait after, they told me after 24 hours after making a call to the bank. But that 24 hours turned into a week, because they were giving me a reference number. When I call, they refer you to, it turned out to be a week. And I really cannot track that money went back to my account. I am just concerned how the payment system there comes into real time with, this digital space. I don't know if you can have a response for me there. Because we're speaking about implementation.
Yes. So I think that speaks to what Mr. Kawaya was saying about having a local switch. The challenge is that now you used Visa, right? So Visa means there's a layer that is outside of Uganda. And that's why it has taken a bit of a while to resolve. Okay. Now, once we implement, and that's where I think we need to go as a country, once we implement localized payment solutions, it becomes easier, because the money is within the local ecosystem, and therefore it can be traced in this case where you have a problem. Okay. So to answer your question, such challenges are there, and it's a global thing. But that is where now, as Africa, as Uganda, we have come to the fore in saying that we can actually overcome them.
Okay.
Because Visa has been there longer than mobile money.
Thank you so much. At least I've gotten a peek of an interest there, where
Pardon?
in regards to the implementation, at least I've gotten something. Let me cross to Vincent here to share with us what factors can we consider when we speak about the implementation or launching out the instant and inclusive payment systems in Uganda. Vincent, could you talk to us?
Yeah, thank you. Rita, that's a very good question, because very often when we youngsters, skilled visionaries come to the market, the first temptation is to really deploy our skills in developing systems. Our experience has shown, however, that you need to, beyond being able to enable the transaction to go through the system, what is the intrinsic value that you are giving the customer? The value proposition. So much so that even after they have made the payment, what impact are you actually creating? Now, in our case as FutureLink Technologies, we believe that our offering to the end consumer is the freedom, the financial freedom to choose the most appropriate and affordable financial services. Now, that is not a payment, that is not technology, but that they are able on the app to be able to see the available options, assess them, and choose the most appropriate one. That, in my view, is a value proposition that the mama in Kabale, in Kotido, is looking for, because they don't have information. So beyond the technology, there ought to be that intrinsic value that you are offering the customer, which eventually becomes an ingredient for behavior change. Because these systems must be able to also influence behavior change. The second is really the business model. Is the business model sustainable? Because we have seen a lot of development partners coming with support to roll out some technologies. But because the business model in itself is not inclusive, the customer does not participate in influencing the financial services that come. Soon after the support is no more, the project is not sustainable. So if you look at the work that we're doing, with PEWESA, for example, PEWESA SACCOs, enabling these community-led financial institutions to design their own products, but also have the ability to scale them.
Okay.
That is now a business model that incentivizes everyone that is in the value chain of the delivery, but also in the design of the financial services.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned something, how participatory the end user is. For me, I thought we're just at the receiving side. If at all everything is okay, I can transact at affordable price or cost, and then I'm receiving in real time. I don't need decisions to participate in your business model. You will get to that maybe as we're coming through. But Innocent, we have got private sector and versus regulatory, that is, or government-led instant and inclusive payment system models. We're wondering which one to take up. Which one is better approach to take?
Thank you, Rita. Now, let me take a selfie here. Now I'm sending this photo to Wendy here. That is private sector.
That is private sector?
Yeah, we have freedom to do things our way so many times.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Wendy, please confirm when you receive it. Yeah? That is private sector.
Okay.
And then we had the Honorable Minister here, right? Mm-hmm. And you can notice the protocol and whatever approach there may be. We have Doctor here from the central bank. He will tell you whatever procedure they follow, whatever. Even a meeting has to be organized a certain way. The chair of the meeting has to sit a certain way and dress a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. And what does this mean? We are totally two different entities. Private sector is totally different from government. So question is, should we go government? Should we go private? So just imagine.
Or should we take both?
No, I'm going there. So just imagine if the Honorable Minister came here today and we had a paper that we had signed, all of us here that are participating, and we said we want to build an instant and inclusive payment system that is private sector led, and all of us have signed, and she comes and signs on it. Do you think that policy will ever fail? So they are government, we are private sector. We need each other for that reason. We need the guidance. Like someone will tell you that banks might not be very necessary, but banking is a need for all of us. So the banks will have to be here all the time we need to do anything to do with money. So in the same situation, yes, we need all of us on the same table. But it is best that us as private sector actually converge and agree to the things that we need as the players, building our own rails, like building an instant and inclusive payment switch for us. When we agree to that, all of us, and say yes, 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 and we all sign, the Bank of Uganda will come and just help us use their regulatory sandbox easily, because the private sector has said they want. We contribute to majority of the growth of our economy any day, any time. We employ the majority of anyone that can ever employ in the world, not only in Uganda alone, whether you go to America, wherever you may go. So can we appreciate our value and make use of the infrastructure that government has created, so that if they have created policies and regulations and we think they're not favorable for us, we are able to talk them out and ask them to do better for us, but also convene them. I would love that the next events like this we have some papers we want government to sign. We agree. The minister will not move out before signing, I can assure you. Why? Because we are the stakeholders that make this happen. And they are the ones that are supposed to offer us guidance and regulation. Hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much. What I'm picking there is that when the private sector is divided, probably there is no really water flows or progress in whatever we're doing. Maybe that is true. You can correct me.
No, exactly. I mean, sorry to mention, but even among us, especially for the fintechs, there are many things we're not supposed to be fighting about anymore. When we are here, this is supposed to be an international day for fintechs. All of us are supposed to be here because it is a place for us to show, to tell our stories, to celebrate the milestones we have achieved.
Okay.
But not everyone is here today, you can be sure. So, what does that mean? Of course, majority are here. But why would you stay in the bedroom when your friends are busy playing football?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawoya. Vincent and Stephen, this one goes to you, and I'm requesting each one of you to have less than 2 minutes to get to it, sharing with us what interoperability issues lead to exclusion of poor and vulnerable groups from the formal financial systems. Let me begin with Stephen there.
All right. I'll request that you just give me 1 more minute so I can segue into what Innocent said around the value of working together. And I'll use the example that we all know. Do we all remember when a tax on mobile money transaction was introduced about 3-4 years ago? The truth is that didn't happen out of the air. It was because the bankers got together and they were able to lobby, because they saw what mobile money was doing. Okay. That is the value of working together. Once you get together, you can cause change, you can cause impact. So it is, and the fact is that afterwards, you had a tax on mobile money withdrawals, but no tax on ATM withdrawals. So you can see what happens when you actually come together. And so, Innocent, I think that will be your job to do as our convener here. But to answer your question,
yes, please.
Yes, on the challenges that relate to instant payments and the fact that there's a lack of interoperability and exclusion, I think the first part would be to that whole notion of partnership. But I think the second part is that as financial institutions, we have got to work with fintech to be able to do some of the things here. And I'll give an example. Well, fintech and the ecosystem of technology. An example is that in where I come from, Centenary Group, who own the bank and Centetech, their focus is the bottom of the pyramid. Now, bottom of the pyramid does not, as an aggregate, know English. However, when you dial most of the USSDs today, they're in English. So meaning me who is in China Mukaka, I will be excluded. So it's important that as an example, what we are doing is that we have partnered with a company called Sunbird AI, who are doing instant language translation. So what this means is that once I have a service, someone who speaks Ateso, someone who speaks Runyachitara, someone who speaks English will have the same instant access. And that is how you create change and transformation. But this won't be possible if I sit alone in my para house and think I'll do everything on my own. No.
Okay.
You need to go out of, and I think even for guys, you need to come out of that and come to people like this who are always innovating and actually partner. And maybe now I'll use this chance to maybe share in what's happening. So Centenary Group has just one more minute.
I'm going to come back to you to share with me that about Centenary Group. But for now, let me cross to Vincent here.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm going to give you that to share with us the interoperability issues in that regard in less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. I think that just to look at why do we really need to interoperate? Why do we need to have systems really integrated and seemingly so? True meaning value that affects and influences behavior change must be complete, and it involves many stakeholders. And for that reason then, at the forefront, we must be open to this approach. Now, in approaching this, certainly you have different cultures, different organizational cultures that come to affect the confidence of the user. If one organization does not, for example, uphold integrity as a key component, integrating with them can actually substantially expose you. So the confidence element comes in the sense that you need to have some benchmark, and that's where the regulators come in, because the regulators are able to establish a minimum expectation of all the players. So organizational culture, which can be achieved through regulation, is one area. The other...
You have 30 seconds for that.
Yes. The other is pricing. If you have organizations that look at just their small ecosystem as the only customer that they have, they're going to try to price in such a way that they can compensate for their entire costs. But effectively, that becomes a barrier, because then you have different people charging different charges, in total disregard of the effective overall cost to the end consumer. So again, pricing comes in as a barrier which really excludes a number of people. And the approach is that we need to be mindful of the customer that we are actually serving.
Thank you so much. And lastly, let's cross to Innocent here to share with us what are the long-term implications on financial inclusion of instant and inclusive payment systems that are not actually being deployed.
Thank you, Rita. My friend from Bank of Uganda just on Wednesday told me that their bosses have refused to release a budget for marketing inclusion because they plan and target to have an increase in number of included people of 15% every year. So far they have had only 3.5%, and we are in August. And so they're not going to get money for marketing and their advocacy. Why? Because many times we've been talking about interoperability. And we've now had most of the would-be benefits of digital financial services and mobile inclusion. We've had whatever bit of showcase we would have. I mean, the story of mobile money started with people having boyfriends and girlfriends having to send them money and buying airtime, and then going to a store and sending someone the scratch card number. You sell the 10,000 card at 8,000, get the 8K and go and have lunch. The story has grown in just about 17 years from those scratch cards that are not existing in the market right now. And now, everyone that has a mobile phone, not a smartphone, knows that they can receive money using that phone, as long as they have a SIM card. So, but then, not everyone is comfortable sending across a network. Not everyone knows that with my mobile money, I can pay to a circle. Not everyone knows that I can pay school fees and all that. So, if instant and inclusive payment systems are not built and put as part of the rails to make sure we accelerate inclusion, what will happen is some people are going to die without ever being included. That is going to happen for sure.
Okay.
The other is that
in
we are
30
going to
seconds.
slow down. Yeah, those are 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My time is actually done. Nicholas, I'm requesting for just a minute.
No, before they leave, we have questions from the audience. I understand F. France from Kuzimba has a question. And Dennis, they already sent a message on the project coordinators' Twitter that they have questions. So F. France, this side, one question, and Dennis on this microphone, one question. Precise and concise your name and to who you are targeting the question to. I understand there are still other questions, but let us first address these two. F. France.
Hello. How are you? Hi, people, rather.
Hi.
All right. Mine is to Vincent specifically. I know you have answered this a bit, but I hope you give it more emphasis. How is FutureLink Technologies helping women at the bottom of the pyramid to get financially included?
Thank you, France. That is for Vincent. Take it on, Vincent.
Thank you. With women, we did some research. And we found out that one of the barriers to women accessing financial services is that they needed privacy. Because when a woman is seen at the banking hall by the husband, very many, that night is a moment of domestic violence because the husband is demanding for the money. So enabling the woman to be able to transact in confidentiality from their home enables them now not to keep the money with their friend, now not to lend it to their relative, but to send it to the circle. And we have one experience that we had in Shema. This woman used to save just once a month, but now they are able to save every day because they sell, bananas from their banana plantation. And they've been able to actually access affordable credit for the manure, for the banana plantation, and that's the kind of transformation. So a woman needs privacy so that we can avoid or at least mitigate domestic violence.
Okay, so you mean when I'm saving in the circle, I'm hiding, like nobody's able to find out that I'm saving using circles?
Yes, because then you can save using the available channel, you can save using USSD, you can save using the app, and the husband, and this is really not to support secrecy in marriage, but this is what we have found on the ground. So we need to enable the woman remain safe in playing within the financial system.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Let us have your name and the question, and then the one you're posing it to. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, people.
Hi.
My name is Orech from Medmo, and my question goes to Mr. Kawoya. I would like to know, how does Moduloop help in achieving and fostering instant inclusiveness in terms of payment?
I beg your pardon?
How does Moduloop help in achieving instant and inclusive payment?
Oh, thank you. Briefly, a Moduloop is a blueprint it's an API that allows creators of innovative financial solutions to build instant and inclusive payment systems. They can be switches, they can be applications, they can be integration points that leverage things like a third-party payment initiator. What happens to help us work with a simple framework that allows everyone that would wish to create a payment solution, especially an instant and inclusive payment system, to use the code or the entire API that has been created freely because it's open source, and are working with the level 1 project guidelines and principles to allow you to seamlessly develop and design a solution wherever you want to go anywhere in the world. It is acceptable and relates with all ISO standards. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other question, Nicholas?
Yes, we shall have one question for Stephen Chirenga. The person will introduce themselves and then ask.
Thank you so much. My name is Paul Zake. Zake means fire, but today there is no fire. My question goes to Stephen. Yes, we are on financial technology. We have these digital innovations we are proud of. But how are we ensuring that we are achieving financial inclusion through fintechs without again resulting to digital exclusion? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Zake. So so I think to answer that question, thank you. I'll use this chance to just make this question inclusive of all of you by sharing the opportunity in saying that. Okay, good you're hearing. In saying that the real job at hand is to ensure that when you go to the deepest of places in Uganda, someone can have access to financial services. That's the real job at hand. Can it be done alone? Maybe in 100 years. There's that saying that goes that if you want to go far, maybe if you want to go fast, move alone. If you want to go far, move together, correct?
Correct.
So I think as a collective in this room here, we need to work together. And I'm talking about the banks, the fintechs, the guys of infrastructure and technology, in saying that, one, we share technology, so that it's not a case of everybody building their own fiber, building their own banks, building their own branches. Two, we share on services. Today I have so many apps on my phone, it confuses. Imagine a world where I had one phone and one app, and that app had everything. That, for me, I think is how we achieve meaningful inclusion. And it's something that we are attempting to do, but you haven't allowed me to talk about it yet, so I'll first wait until you give me the chance.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a question to Zake. Answer to Zake.
All right, thank you, Stephen. We are running out of time. We thank our panelists. I'm going to request Rita to lead them out for a group photo. We have had Rita Kabanyoro from Nile One Studio as the host of this panel. We have had Vincent Tumwejuche from Future Link Technologies. They are connecting millions and millions of Ugandans and handling money in trillions. We have had Innocent Kawoya, the CEO of High People. The many he has done I will not mention, but I know they are quite a lot. We have had Stephen Chirenga from Center Group, Centenary Bank, Centtech. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. To put that in Luganda for everyone to understand, omukyalo ono n'abaami bano nga bagenda okufuna ekifaananyi badde boogera ku kye bayita inclusive and instant payment systems. Ekitegeeza mu lugambo mu lulimi olunnabuddu nti w'obeera oli ewammwe ekyabadaaza oba ekyazanga, osobola okuweereza ssente amangu, osobola okusasula amangu, amasannyalaze ne gajjirawo, maama we asobola okuweereza ssente za school fees mu kifo ky'ozijjayo ate abayaaye bazikusaleko ensawo n'osasula emakeera oba ekyambogo nga tozijja ku ssimu yo. So instant and inclusive payment systems, ebintu ebikolerawo nga bituyamba okusasula n'okubeezaawo obulamu bwaffe. Ladies in the audience and gentlemen, thank you for being attentive. Lady and gentlemen, please go for a group photo. Allow me to take this opportunity to welcome our next moderator, King of Radio, the Public Relations Office of High People. We have worked with Wesley for quite a lot. He knows everything about High People. He has improved High People. In the same spirit, High People has greatly improved him. Take it on, Wesley.
Thank you very much. Please clap for Nicholas one more time. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? You all right? You're okay, but you all look serious. Like, what's the seriousness about? Like, it's a serious event. Okay, well, I'm called the King of Radio, Wesley. I work here at High People, and we are blessed to actually have you here. Now, the beauty about this time around, this particular event is that this time we're not just only Ugandan, but we have actually gone East African. So we've had our brothers from Kenya and Tanzania join the exhibition for the last 40 days. Come on, let's clap for them. And also clap for me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You know, I'm trying to gather my strength to talk to all the serious people and the faces that I'm seeing here, because you're kind of intimidating. But good things first. It's beautiful. Of course, listening to the discussions here about, you know, inclusion and all that stuff, I feel like from the start of the events that we've always had, the 40 days and the exhibitions we've always had, at least we've grown. I think you definitely agree. Very many people have been able to get connections from different places, and then also you come here and then you know you're going to find a solution, you know, for your program you're working on. I really don't want to waste much of the time, but I really want us to thank all the 47 participants that actually have been a part of this exhibition for all this while. So please, let's clap for them one more time. 47 of you guys did an amazing job. Now, we want to thank our partners. And of course, that will definitely start with High People. So we can clap for them. And also Level 1 Project, Moja Loop, Motors Box, Cross Lake Tech, and also supported by the Gates Foundation. We also want to thank the viewers who are watching us on BBS Telefina AFA. Now, without wasting really much time, I would want to get to the next panel straight away, and then we get to discuss this one here. I know some of us are a little bit familiar with it, but we want to find out how can now we take advantage of that. Cloud computing. Yeah, like cloud computing. So when someone says cloud computing, the first time I had cloud computing, I was like, okay, cloud computing. Either computing in the clouds, yeah, or there's something like, you know, in the heavens or something like that. So like, someone BBS Telefina Africa, tugenda kwogera ku cloud computing, computers omubire. You know, it's interesting. But anyway, now, digital services providers, that's the DFSPs, have the opportunity to actually exploit the normal potential and benefits of the cloud computing, such as reduced capital expenses, agility, redundancy, high availability, and of course also resiliency to innovate rapidly. Now, given that finance is one of the most regulated sectors, now DFSPs must build the capacity to implement the cloud computing solutions that are secure and cost effective, and of course also meet the relevant regulatory and compliance requirements. Now, the team that I'm going to invite here next is definitely going to help us dissect into what cloud computing is and its relevancy, how to go about it, and all those things. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, invite Mr. Joseph Abdi, the founder and CEO of JPESA and Joyous International. Please, let's clap for him. If you don't clap, you'll also give birth to your children. They invite them, and they also don't clap for them. What you sow is what you reap. I'm a serious born-again Christian who believes in the Bible, so the Bible says what you sow is what you reap. So also the next panelist would be Mr. Peter Kakoma, founder and CEO of Gambuuze. We also have Ms. Cleopatra Kanyunyuzi, the co-founder and instructor at Club Tangaza. Lastly, on this beautiful panel, we'll also have Mr. David Egwell, NOC manager and Raxio Data Center. NOC means Network Operations Center. Please, let's clap for them as they come through. All right, okay. I'll definitely join them on this panel. Okay, someone just switched it off. All right, okay. First of all, I'll give you a minute to say hello, but we'll try to be a little bit audible so that we can, so that these guys don't increase the microphones to get some feedback. So I'll, of course, ladies first. You look so beautiful. How are you? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Yeah. It's an honor to be here. So thankful to High People and partners for having me again on this platform. Do you want me to introduce myself?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh yeah. So I'm Cleopatra Kanyunyuzi, co-founder and CEO at Club Tangaza. Club Tangaza is a coding and software development platform that is skilling children and teenagers. So we are basically preparing the next gen of innovators in the fintech space and the other fields in the digital tech ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi people. David Egwell is my name. It's an honor to be here. I am from Raxio Data Center, the first carrier neutral and cloud neutral data center in the country. Our aim and what we intend to achieve in Africa is including everyone in the digital revolution, a data center at a time. We have a data center in Uganda that is non-enterprise, free for everyone to use. We are spreading data centers across Africa. The more you spread data centers across a region, you improve the internet experience. And for the purposes of this discussion, it's how quickly fintechs and DFSPs can bring their apps to market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hey, a very good morning to you all. My name is Joseph Abdi from Dfps International. Dfps was the first company in Uganda to come up with a mobile money API. That it was about 2009. Before even the telecoms ever thought about having an API in the market. In fact, it took 5 years later for the telecoms to come up with an API. I know you should be wondering how come we didn't hear about it. Well, a couple of users did know, including iPeople. Back then they used our API to process transactions online, automate mobile money. I also come through a company known to most guys who have done hosting services, who have had a website here in Uganda, a company known to as Jollies International, the first hosting company as well. And back then in 2004, we were the first persons to sell a domain name, an international domain name in Uganda. And so today I'll be representing Jollies rather than Dfps as the payment service provider.
All right. Thank you very much.
Morning, everyone. My name is Peter Kakoma, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Gambuuze, where we build digital solutions for businesses and communities. And specifically for our region, we've focused on building a platform that helps SACCOs and microfinance institutions make the most of technology in simplifying how they do what they do. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I'll just, for the interest of time, I really want to go straight into the questions. I'll start with you, David. Now, to start off, what is cloud computing for a layman person who is actually watching us right now on BBS and also the world, and also why is it an important issue at this particular time?
Okay, I'll speak to everyone in the room.
Yeah.
I believe each of us have changed a smartphone at least once.
Yes.
And we've not only wanted to change the phone, we demand that everything moves across. So it has become so easy that, for example, Samsung will tell you, put the phone next to the other, and you will find it has synchronized. Think about where that data is stored. Let's even bring it closer. Some of us have had email addresses before we had mobile phones or smartphones. Think about that picture you've sent across the world. Where is it stored? Well, that picture is stored in a big computer somewhere across the world. So anytime you're thinking a computer across the world, in another country, in another location, think about an acronym called a cloud.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so we interact with the cloud every day. You have Google Drive, you have Google Photos, you have iCloud. Those are embodiments of the cloud to the layman.
Yeah.
Now, for the purposes of this particular discussion, many of the techies are using AWS or Amazon or Google Cloud. That is the fastest way for you to take your app to market. By putting it on Google, you expose it to the rest of the world. Before the year 2000, you would have an app on your laptop, develop it, then you would have to take it to a public data center. There is a new buzzword in the tech industry called DevOps. It's how quickly you can transfer your app from development to the market. Now, the cloud shortens that time period. That is why I think cloud is relevant at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To you, Cleo. Now, in a market like Uganda, how available, affordable, and reliable are cloud computing services?
Thank you for that question, Wesley. It's a good question. So just like my colleague has mentioned, he has actually talked of services, cloud services that companies and developers are already using. So in my opinion, cloud services are readily available. They are reliable, okay? And I think they're affordable because most of the cloud services out there have a monthly charge that they come with, okay? So it's up to you to pick what you can afford as a company, as an individual. So this monthly charge could be spreading over a month, like you only pay for a month for a service that you want to use in a month, or 3 months, or 6 months, and so on and so forth. So we have companies, we have representatives here, I think from like Jumo, Cellulant, okay, and these companies have actually used AWS that my colleague mentioned, Amazon Web Services, to build their platforms, and we're using these services on our mobile phones to get loans, to process our data, to check our balances and send money across the globe or even within the country. So you can see we have actually been using these services quite a while. And cloud services actually started out about in 2006 when Amazon launched the first cloud-based services because they had issues of scaling according to their customer demand. So when Google saw this, they also jumped on board very quickly, went on a buying spree. They kept on buying companies that help them integrate now what we call the Google Cloud. We have the Google Workspace. Everybody is familiar with Google Docs, the spreadsheets that are on there. Okay, so, and everybody I think has actually used those services, right? So it's, we also have Alibaba that also jumped on board around that time to develop cloud services. So we have, I would like to talk about the categories of cloud services that are available. We have the platform as a service, and then we also have infrastructure as a service, which most of the companies are using to develop their fintech products and get them faster and quicker to their customers. Then on individual basis, do you have a good movie on Netflix, Wesley?
Oh yeah,
Cool. So we are easily streaming cool material online, which wasn't the case. Back then, I think we had Edisoft, who was a big name in the movie field. So you'd go and have to buy movies that were on DVDs and so on. But right now, you can easily stream a movie or even music online. So I think everybody, even people that are actually holding basic feature phones, are interacting with cloud services. It's just because they're not aware that it is happening, but cloud services are here and they're readily available. They're affordable according to the size of your pocket. And,
Interesting. Well, to you, Joseph, why would DFPs need cloud computing specifically, and what are the typical uses of cloud computing by DFPs?
Thank you. Without a doubt, there are numerous advantages of going to the cloud. I'll give about 3 or 4. One of them is the advanced data management. When you have your data on the cloud, boy, it's easy to manipulate your data and run an analysis. Unlike if you keeping your data on paper. Cloud efficiency to run your business. A transaction that should have taken a minute or probably an hour or a day could actually take a second. I remember back then in the day when we needed to withdraw money from Postbank. If you needed to withdraw anything beyond 100,000, you had to book 3 days in advance. Today, it doesn't have to be the case. You could actually have the money right instantly, all because these branches are well connected through the cloud. So the cloud enables that. But also we look at business efficiency, because of cloud computing, businesses are able to be efficient, and in return, they're able to satisfy their customers. When a business is efficient, in return the customer becomes satisfied. The other thing is business continuity. When a business, let's say, has a disaster, how long will it take for that business to come back on its feet? If you're the kind of a business that runs on manual processes, on paperwork, probably it will take you not less than 3 days. I have worked with businesses, multi-billion businesses, where an error happened and it just took them less than 10 minutes to get back on their feet by simply restoring data that was, as big as a terabyte. That's the power of, cloud computing. Automated analysis. Several times we want to run business analysis. We would like to know how our transactions doing, especially for fintechs. You really can't do without that. But most importantly, price reduction. It's really cheap to run your business on the cloud. You can practically run your business while you're on holiday. You could be in Kidepo and you're running a business, so it's actually cheaper. It's cheaper. It cuts down the operational costs.
All right. And to you, Peter. Again, what is the state and what is the state of uptake of cloud computing services by DFPs, and is there a high or low uptake? And please qualify with your answers with data and details.
Okay, thank you. So I think maybe just to bring in a bit more context, when we talk about the uptake of cloud computing services by digital financial service providers, it's key to also look at it from the context of generally the uptake of technology and digital services in our country. So if you zero in on digital financial service providers, you will see the uptake is high. Yeah, in the sense that you will be very hard pressed to find any digital financial service provider that is not using cloud services. So be it the big players, Airtel, MTN, but if you bring it to even other players, some of the people part of this event, Safe Border, all of us in many ways are making use, everyone here is making use of cloud computing. So in the DFSP space, you will find the uptake high. The unfortunate bit though is the uptake of technology generally is still low. Even if you just go across the border, you will find that getting, there are bus services where you pay digitally. You can access almost any government service across the border online. Yeah? So here we have things like QRA which you can do digitally, but across the border you'll find you have pretty much everything can be done online. So it's a bit of both aspects. So it's key not to divorce one from the other. You have high uptake in the DFSPs because of the reasons Joseph has pointed out. It's really cost effective. Time to market is reduced incredibly. You have better security. You're letting people who know what they do focus on what they need to do while you focus on marketing your product and increasing its uptake. So because of all those reasons, it's high in the DFSP space, but our technology uptake generally is still a bit low.
Wow, thank you very much. Now, again to you, Peter and Cleo, I think I would definitely pose this one to you now. Why aren't fintechs adopting cloud computing services? What are the challenges that are delaying their adoption? I'll actually start with you, then I'll get back to you, Peter.
All right. Thank you for that, Wesley. It's a good question. So I'll talk about data sovereignty and regulations. It's common knowledge here, at least for people in this room, that fintech companies are heavily regulated. Okay, and in Uganda we have an active data protection law that dictates on how fintechs can handle, store, and use the data that they've digitized. So when you look at cloud services, I think some of the DFSPs kind of hold back for fear of missing some key aspects when it comes to putting data in the cloud, for fear of falling out with the regulations that are put in place and thereby probably being facing hefty fines or even just gaining negative publicity. Yeah, and then the other thing is that there's non-existent corporate strategies to move to the cloud for DFSPs. So for deployment to the cloud to make sense for any business that is a financial service provider, it has to come from alignment of IT objectives and corporate strategy. Otherwise, you'll have all these companies investing in cloud services, making unnecessary investments in cloud services, and thereby not having the good results or the good impact that cloud has to offer. Yeah, and then the other thing is that for traditional DFSPs like banks, there's fear to share their data because there's fear of data security in the cloud, because it is known that the data, whether it's customer data or enterprise data, digital wallets, online payment systems, the information that fintechs hold is very sensitive and very high risk. You don't want to ever be caught off guard, exposed to risk like getting hacked or the information leaking. So they fear to put it out there in the cloud because they are not educated about the services that cloud vendors have to offer, but I would love to tell you, Wesley, there is no single bank or DFSP IT department that makes the sort of investment in security like what the cloud vendors do. For example, Microsoft Azure, they invest, it's been reported that they invest about $1 billion in securing their Azure cloud service platform, and they're able to ward off 7 trillion attacks daily. So if you look at that, I mean, who can do that here? Like for an IT department to do that, that would be super crazy. Yeah. So the cloud is very secure. It's just that the fintechs and DFSPs have to have this at the bottom of their mind, that, sorry, at the front of their mind, that security is always priority for any cloud vendor. They have invested in very sophisticated artificial intelligence and machine language algorithms that help to keep everything that they're providing, all the services they're providing in the cloud secure. Yes, so that's my take. Thank you.
Okay. Peter, anything that she's left out?
No, I think Clea has done a really wonderful job there. I'll just lean in a bit on the aspect of, I feel it's more I'll call them traditional fintechs, the ones who've been there much longer, who've invested significantly in architecture, local architecture, who are a bit more rigid towards the transition because of all the reasons that she's mentioned. Because if you've invested in building your own data center, David from Raxio will tell you that is no small investment in any way. And so just because cloud is the way to go right now, MTN is not going to wake up overnight and just jump the gun and say, let's go. So there's also that aspect that we have invested significantly for quite a number of years. And if it's not, well, it might be broken in some ways, but it's working. If it's not broken to the point that it's affecting our revenues, then maybe it's not yet time to switch completely. So that's the only aspect I'll add.
Now that you've actually mentioned David, David, I'll get to you as well. Now, what are the service providers like Raxio Data Center doing to ensure that the DFSPs and other industries uptake cloud computing services?
Okay, I'll start it from the point of the regulator.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have data protection laws that are tied around data being local in Uganda. By local means, if you're a financial institution, you must have my banking details in country on a server that you control. It kind of creates a gray area for the traditional cloud service providers like Amazon, where we don't know where the data is sitting. Yes, it may be secure, and there are all these carriers created around securing data, but to the regulator, they don't know where it's seated. Raxio has provided a physical brick and mortar place where we have security, and we are, I can say, this is not an advert, I can say we have almost matched the standards of, you don't need now to go to AWS, all you would need to do is co-locate with us. We've provided the platform for cloud providers to come in country, and they would make our data local. That would be a tick for the regulator. Number two, it provides a place where fintechs and DSFPs can come and see what we are actually doing. When they see what we are doing, then it would kind of allay the fears around data security and all those other myths associated with the cloud. So, one, we are like a food court. You provide everything for your customers to come and enjoy a meal that many people have provided. We provide the access to all the 12 carriers in Uganda. We provide security. We provide cooling that you can enjoy at a reduced cost because we are doing it. You enjoy our economies of scale. We also provide
and you, Joseph, again, what must be done for more DFSPs to uptake the cloud computing, or it's not even necessary? So I'll start with you, Peter.
Okay, I think one of the really fast things is around the cost for the DFSP, in the sense that our cost of internet is still a bit high. Regionally. The moment we say cloud, that cost has to come in, because to access any aspect of my data, I need to actually go online. I mean, there are those other interesting aspects about internet going off, but we won't go there. We'll stick to just the cost of the internet coming down for this particular conversation. The others really, I feel that are in a sense already, we're already moving in that direction, because any fintech coming up right now, because of the need to lower its cost, will go down that direction. The other one, all the other panelists have touched on it, the regulatory aspects. So yes, there's a big need to protect data, but we have already seen precedent in other areas where it's possible to still be protecting your data without clamping down on the growth of the ecosystem. So those are the two that I feel would be very key in the short term to speed up that access.
Yes, Joseph. Again, what must be done for more DFSPs to uptake the cloud computing?
Especially when it comes to, the regulators, I personally feel there is not as much support for cloud computation adoption, to the financial services by the regulators. But also, I feel there is the knowledge for cloud computing to our regulators is really poor. And I have a few suggestions that could really help, that I would share with them probably, if you give me a minute. But I say this because of certain experiences, I have seen on the market.
Yeah.
I'll give an example of one of most dynamic, exchange platforms we have in Uganda. The very first one that automated their exchange, Alltex. It's I think the first exchange that allows you to, trade without a broker. You go online, you create an account, you load money, you buy shares, you buy bonds, and Alltex, you pay for that advert. But yeah, you won't believe it. Before 8:30, if you open their website, you'll see a 404. This website doesn't exist. The website comes on at 8:30. So one day, I speak to Joseph and I'm like, what is this? I mean, why would your website be off before 8:30? And his answer was pretty clear. The regulator told them the market hasn't opened. Therefore, the website shouldn't open as well. And I'm telling you realities. And I'm like, really? In this generation, you need to switch off a website the same way you switch off a market? That clearly shows the regulators have no idea. Yeah. They do not know what cloud computing actually is. So, suggestions. First and foremost, they should support fintech, transformation. They should understand how fintechs work, how they operate, and they should support that. They should work to ensure that regulations encourage innovation in financial services, I would give you a couple examples, but not because of time, where actually regulation has failed most of us to kick off. JPSA, we have the very first payment service through WhatsApp. We came up with what we call WhatsApp money. You can send and receive money on WhatsApp across the world. Anybody on WhatsApp can pay you, and you can send money to America in less than a second. That person will have received that money, and they would withdraw the money wherever they are in real time. It hasn't yet happened, but boy, we are having issues patenting that solution. Real mega issues. In fact, we've been blocked to patent it by the registry simply because of, again, the poor knowledge, of fintechs. So regulate fintech at a national level. Currently, it's not. It's not regulated at a national level. They should create a tech-natural, rules for fintech, promote fintech cybersecurity. Recently, I saw a heated, argument. We've been having these issues where if somebody sent money mistakenly to another person, who takes responsibility? And if I left my phone there and I wrote my PIN, on my phone, and you withdrew that money, who takes responsibility? Right now, it is the fintech that takes responsibility. Really? So there's really need to modify these policies. There's need for our leaders to understand the new norm, of how fintechs work. We need to understand that fintechs are borderless. We are not limited within, the border. So the way we operate is not local. We think beyond our borders. We think international. We have a company called PayPal, which most of you know. It's the biggest, payment system in the world. That company hasn't come to Uganda. It's only in Kenya and South Africa. Those are the only countries where you can actually receive money. But why have they come to Uganda? Again, it comes down to the regulations. The laws here do not support them to come over. And so many. The list is really, endless. Yeah. But again, like I said, we need to have regulations that understand the new norm of fintech.
Interesting, because I was still going to ask you the same question, but you've somehow answered it about the existing regulations on cloud adoption by fintechs here, which you've really been giving us. And I'm looking at, I'll definitely go now to you, Cleopatra. How does cloud services facilitate level 1 project principles? Now, talk about the cost efficiency and TAD KYCs and an AI to counter fraud. All these are level 1 project principles that are well catered for by cloud services.
Thank you for that question, Wesley. The cloud service features that are aligned with the level 1 principles, like you mentioned, cost efficiency. Cloud eliminates or cuts down on the need to spend on infrastructure and capital-heavy investments for fintechs or DFSPs that are looking to start out, and for those that are actually looking to either scale up or even shrink or scale down. Okay, so what you have to do as a fintech, as a DFSP, digital financial service provider, is to pay for the cloud service and then let the cloud vendor worry about everything else. Yeah. So we are talking about provision of hardware, ensuring security, and like I already said, nobody invests better in security like the leading cloud vendors. Yeah. And managing your data, making sure that it's available whenever it's needed. So I think once it's cost effective in the long run for most financial service providers. Okay, all they have to do is to pay the amount, and the cloud vendor handles everything else. Then you talked about another feature of cloud service that aligns with the level 1 principles. We have TAD KYC. So it's been about 2 decades since KYC regulations were introduced all around the globe for financial service providers. So the financial service providers were expected to verify that their customers are actually who they say that they are. And right now, the TAD KYC is considered as the best practice when it comes to onboarding new customers. Okay, so we've had instances I think a colleague on the previous panel from Center was like, he has hundreds of apps on his phone and sometimes he gets confused. So what happens, you download a new app and in order to onboard, they take you through a series of questions. And sometimes it's tedious and you get frustrated halfway through the process. So with TAD KYC, a new customer who's onboarding does not have to fulfill the entire KYC process. Now what happens is that the customer is able to access the product and experience it faster. And then depending on the usage and the volumes of transaction, the DFSP then can come in and be like, hey, we need more verification. Tell us more about yourself. Like, you know, what's your net income? Or give us your telephone number and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing with TAD KYC. Then the last thing is countering fraud, okay, which is also very important for level 1, for the level 1 project. Again, cloud services secure their platforms very well, and they use sophisticated artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms that help anti-fraud systems, anti-fraud teams, okay, even systems, because you can build robots to do that for you, to easily detect fraudulent transactions by analyzing large volumes of data in real time, and they are able to weed out, okay, like the fraudulent transactions from the normal ones, and then investigate the fraudulent transactions, and then and thereby reducing the risk of exposure to a fraud and abuse. That also includes anti-money laundering software. So it's all in there. I'm telling you, the cloud is beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, I don't know, Nicholas, do you have any questions? We could have 2 questions from the audience. I'm seeing the beautiful Wendy here as well.
Thank you, Wesley. Yes, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Wesley. Thank you, panelists. It's been a very interesting discussion. This time we'll be taking 2 questions from the audience.
Yes, we have 2 questions. One is from Emily Sonia Nakabuye. You can use the microphone next to Wendy. Then we have Kevin or Tim. They are both students. One just finished university. Another one is in secondary. Emily, that microphone. Kevin on this microphone. Thank you. Precise and concise to the question. Thank you very much. And when we are done with this, Wesley, you go with your panel outfit group photo. Yes, Emily, ask the question. Your names and the person you are targeting, directing the question to.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Sonia Nakabuye, and my question goes to Cleopatra. The question is, what needs to be done to ensure that the young generation is ready for the digital world?
Hey, Sonia.
Hey.
Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
I mean, we're already doing this with you, Emily. We're skilling you to build platforms like you get to understand the underlying technology that is powering these services through teaching you how to code, how to build apps and websites and so on. So the younger generation should be educated, if I should say. We should get our children very much involved in any field that offers them a way to learn more about digital technology. And I think it's also very important for us to include financial education right now in schools. I don't know if Mr. Kawoya is here, CEO of High People. We should look into that, all right? We need to educate the school-going children. I wanted to say the masses, but that might be a little bit harder, but the schools are easier to start with, okay? Like we get a day, like what musicians are doing now, they're holding concerts. I mean, why can't we do this as people who are educated in the fintech space? Let's also hold conferences with the children. Let's talk to them, expose them to the technologies and what's happening in the digital space, in the fintech space. So when they're made aware of what is happening, they actually can get interested and see how they can contribute as they progress in deciding what they want to do after school.
Thank you so much, Cleopatra.
Yes, thank you. Yes, please.
Good morning, everyone. My question goes to Mr. Peter Kakoma. How can startups in Uganda shift to using the local cloud service providers?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Kenneth. So I believe one of the very first steps in doing that is identifying the local partners that you can work with, because we are very exposed to the global providers. You know, the Amazon Web Services, it's now, I mean, everyone knows that, Google Cloud, but you need, who are the local providers that you can work with? It's one thing to, the moment you think local, to first think maybe I can set up a computer somewhere. That is not going to work. It will only work if the tool you're building is for your family and friends, and they love you so much that even if it goes down, they will not leave the app. But if you're actually going to serve paying customers and build a business, then identify local partners to work with. One of the front runners is right here on the panel. Raxio is right up there. You do have other providers out there, but find the local partners, get in touch with them. Jolis is one of them. So get them, those are two names to start with, find out what they provide, and plug into what they have for you. I know they'll give competitive services, good support that can then allow you to focus on building the app without also now trying to learn networking and security and all that stuff that will derail you from advancing your app at the speed that you ought to. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Peter, very much. We have had Wesley, King of Radio. We have had Cleopatra from Club Tangaza, David from Laxo Data Center, Joseph from Jepesa, Joris. We have also had Peter Kakoma from Kanzu Code, mainly engineers minus the guy on the extreme. He's a musician and a dancer, but he found his way here, which is a good thing. Yes, like I noted, you are going to go for a group photo, but like the norm is we are live on BBS Telefa in Yobwakabaka bwa Buganda. Abaami bano n'omukyala abadde maaso wano babadde bali ku topic eyitibwa cloud services and digital financial service providers. Ekitegeeza mbigamba ebitini, waliwo mu biseera by'okulonda waliwo abaagambanga nti fe akalulu kaffe tebajja kabba kuba saava zaffe ziri mu bire, nti ebintu byaffe tulina gye tubitereka gye batajja bisanga. So badde boogera ku engeri gy'otereka ebintu mu kifo ky'okukwata ebintu byonna obiteeka mu store, ababbi ne bajja ne bagimenya ne bagitwala. Waliwo engeri endala ey'obitereka, osobola obitereka mu bbanga gye bayita ebire, mu luzungu kye bayita cloud. Tekitegeeza nti tugenda ewa Katonda ne tubiteekayo, naye abazungu nga bakolagana naffe Abafirika, kuba naffe tuli bantu bagezi nnyo, baayiiya ekintu ekyo gy'osobola okutereka ebintu mu bire. Oli ky'ovola buntu ajja n'akantu ke bayita ka flash disk n'agamba kalina 100 GB nga kuliko ne documents nnyingi nnyo, kati ekyo bayita tekinologiya. Ky'ova olaba ku high people tugamba mweyunire nnyo tekinologiya, kuba tekinologiya ayamba ebintu bingi. Kye wandimaze omwaka okukola tekinologiya akikola mu nnaku 3 ate nga tofunye buzibu bwonna. So mwebale nnyo okubanga mutulaba, twongera maaso ne programu yaffe. Omukolo guno baguyita Fintech Landscape Exhibition, High People, Cross Lake Technologies, Mojalo Foundation, Modas Box, and Gates Foundation. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Please, ladies and gentlemen, go for a group photo. Without wasting any other time, we are going to a special speech. The speech is about cyber security, and that speech is going. Wesley, please, yes. Kindly. Obudde bwo buweddeko, otulabyeko nnyo, weebale nnyo, weebalire ddala. The speech is going to be given by Jafef Alitho. Jafef, in very simple words, is the managing director of Airtel Mobile Commerce Uganda Limited. Kyemuyita Airtel Money. So tuyina omukulu wa Airtel Money. Abakozesa omukutu gwa Airtel, those that use Airtel network, you know what it has done for you. you know what the telecoms are doing in financial inclusion. So Jeffaf is going to talk in layman language, how safe is your money on in technology. If your money is on Airtel money, on MTN mobile money, it's in a bank account, it's with a fintech like, let me say, it's with, say, MoneyCent. How safe is it? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome Dfps Alitho as he takes us through this presentation. Dfps on the right. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, as Dfps makes his way, we want to appreciate our partners, local partners, Fellow Ninjas, well done, but we can do better. Made images, well done. That side? Yes? You want to see it? All right. Yes, sir, Jafaf, he just came back to the country. He just voted. I wanted to first ask him who's winning in Kenya, because we are getting contradictory results. All camps are winning and all of them are losing. But that is a discussion for another day. Take it on, Jaffe.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me say all protocols observed. First of all, I'll start by introducing myself for the benefit of everyone. I'm Jaffe Tarido. I've been in this mobile money industry for a while. Started in the M-Pesa when it was starting at the inception, worked in the South African region. And today, what excites me is what we see happening in our market in Uganda is not different from what is happening across the globe. I will start by saying that many of you have seen some clips on social media about your money being taken, being replaced, you losing your phone, and you lose your money. This is not new. We usually say actually the only way you can avoid the risk is by not doing business. If you want to avoid the risk, what it means is do nothing, then there will be no risk. What excites me today actually is also the young people who have innovated massively to make the mobile platforms to make the mobile platform achieve some things that we never thought could be achieved. You know, maybe Airtel Money and MTN could be boasting of how they have done well, but they will not have done well without the fintechs that have been able to aggregate and provide services to the next world. So my presentation will be very, very straightforward. I will try to speak to the industry and the concerns that are there, especially in our market. So I will start by saying that what do we mean when we say cyber security? Because sometimes people refer to fraud and many other things, but all these things are actually to do with the cyber security. And cyber security is actually, when it comes to cyber security, you see it's protection of internet connected systems such as hardware, software, and data. This is actually where the problem is. If you look at anything that is happening in the world today where we are losing or we are having challenges, is purely because either your hardware is compromised, your data is compromised, or your software, which we call the applications, are compromised. So this is very, very important to us. So what happens when you see some clip circulating saying that somebody has put my money, I had money in the phone, my phone lost network, then the next time I will put on my phone, I could not get the money. What it does is, first of all, it results in financial losses. Money taken from customers' wallet or account without, sorry. This is the challenge with technology. Okay. So the cyber risks that we live with today, one of them will be the financial loss. And this financial loss cuts across the companies. Either the business will lose or the customer will lose. So this is very important. Then extortion. We have seen, but some extortions are very interesting. Actually, the youngsters are becoming more clever nowadays. They can actually pretend to have been either hijacked or carjacked or anything, then they extort money from their parent. Again, all these are things that we live with every single day. Extortion of customers and service providers for ransom. We have also seen cases, if you recall a few years ago, there was a very serious case in Kenya whereby somebody had access to all the customer data and started threatening the company that if you don't pay me this amount of money, I'm going to expose that the customer information is already in my custody. So again, all these things that we see as a result of cyber crime. Regulatory fines. Anybody who is in fintech, one thing that you always see is a huge fine. If you remember, this happened in the telecom in Nigeria. The highest amount of fine, huge amount of fine that was fined because SIM activations without proper KYC. So when I was listening to the panel that was just presented before me, I was actually saying that if everybody was know how critical KYC is in today's world, because it can cause a lot of fines. So what we see as going through a lot is the regulatory fines because of the same issues. Every time a creep has gone through in this market, every time a customer has done a video and circulated it, we are bound to go to Bank of Uganda to explain what it means, and sometimes it's very, very painful. Obviously, if you have weaknesses in your system or your processes, you are liable to pay the fines. What does this do? It damages the reputation of the company and customers lose trust. Actually, my biggest problem is not even the creeps that have gone out, because we can always compensate if we are on the wrong, and we can always guide the customer so that they can do the right thing to avoid being defrauded. Our biggest challenge is the erosion of trust. And our challenge is this as fintechs in this country. Don't celebrate when either MTN or Airtel Money is having those video clips. The erosion of trust will affect everyone. Banks, fintechs, aggregators, all of us will suffer. So sometimes we need actually to sit down in this kind of forums and discuss and find a lasting solution so that we can avoid these attacks. So what happens then after that? Once there is loss of trust, the customer churn. Churn is nothing but customers stop using your service. And that's why across all the market you find dormant bank accounts, you find also mobile money wallets that are not working. I'll take this life cycle of any fintech to explain exactly what happens and why you are seeing some increase in number of fraud cases in the market. First of all, if you look at any business, whether a bank, whether a mobile money, or anybody who is owning wallet, when we launch the service, we offer very basic services. Cash in, which is in the bank, will be deposit, cash out, and money transfer. In that case, your platform is very closed. You are not connecting to any third-party system. What it means that all the transactions are working within your ecosystem. At that point, your risk is not as high in terms of the cyber crime or the cyber security risks. They are actually minimum because everything is happening within your platform. Then, as we advance, and if you look at this, this is the trajectory that we are in our market today. As you advance now, you bring the aggregators. Everybody wants now to connect your customers to either utility companies or either NGO to distribute funds. That trajectory now starts exposing your platform. In that, you have to provide APIs. When you provide APIs, what you have done now, because there are more than one system involved, your risk is becoming higher. And if you recall, not many years ago in Uganda specifically, there was an attack with one of the aggregators, and the bank ended up losing some money, and then all those things have been corrected with the time. So the more the platform becomes open, the more risks we have in the business. So the open APIs expose us. Then Uganda, we are actually moving towards the side of maturity of the mobile financial services, whereby now you start doing partnerships with the insurance companies, with the banks, and many other players now where we can offer complex solutions like savings. In case of Airtel, we know we have a super saver. You're able to offer loans, you're able to offer insurance premiums. In this case, actually, the biggest risk is you start now sharing your data for the customer with a partner. And then, data is very, very important. As much as the customer will always do what we call the accept terms and conditions for you to be able to share data, then what is happening is now more people have access to your information. The risks on cyber security becomes even more complicated. So this is the trajectory that you are going to see, and I'm presenting this to the fintechs because we need to sit as a team. We need to sit because I might have a very strong processes on my side, but the weaknesses comes from an aggregator or the other partner. Now that the systems are becoming an ecosystem, and we are putting all the systems together for us to be able to deliver the financial inclusion in the market, we need to sit down again and see how do we ensure there are no weak gaps that we create in the platform. So this is what I wanted to share with you, and this is not new. This is exactly what I've seen across the globe when it comes to either mobile money or mobile banking. So if you look at it, a customer SIM is replaced without the knowledge of the customer, and then the fraudster is able to access, to take control. Actually, let me say this because we have had to deal with a lot of emotive issues. You know, a customer comes and say, I received the money from hospital bill, my child is unwell, and this money has been taken. Okay? So there are two things that comes into our mind. What defense do you have today as a customer in this market, or as a user of digital financial services? There are two levels of defense. One is your physical phone, and the second one is your PIN. These are the two defense that you have if you want to protect your wallet. It's not very different from the card that was used to be given by banks. If you get a debit card, there are two controls you have. Either the physical card must be with you. If the physical card is compromised, the only security you have is the PIN. Otherwise, anybody can access your money. So when it comes to mobile money, what we are saying is two things: mobile money and also mobile banking. Two things that you have to ensure that you have is your phone should be always with you. The moment you can't see your phone, please escalate it. Call and say that I want my line blocked now because I don't know exactly what might happen. So, what happens here is, as Airtel, obviously, we have been listening and we have observed this for a while. And what have we done? And I'm saying whatever we have done is not different from what I'm sure our players in the industry have done. One is the process of SIM swap has been done, must be done now physically by the owner of the wallet. Actually, you can no longer do SIM swaps without, you can't replace a SIM card without going physically to the, not even to the agent, to our call center, to our customer care centers, so that at least we verify that you are the owner of the SIM card. 48 hours cooling period. I don't know, I know it's again a matter of providing security against the inconveniencing of the customer, so you have to balance. So if you replace a SIM card today in our business, suppose somebody was to take your phone and go and do a replacement because he has all the information from you, you cannot access your wallet for 48 hours. The whole idea is within 48 hours, you are able to access our customer care, and you are able to block the line. So this is what we advise the customer, that they need to be prompt when they lose their phone. The customer should report SIM to customer care anytime the SIM card loses network. You see, this is also a challenge to the fintechs. How does the customer see that they have the swap is done? They say my phone cannot access network because somebody else has actually taken control of your phone. That is how it's reported to us. It's not like my SIM card has been replaced. It's my phone cannot access the network. Because now you say your phone cannot access the network, sometimes we lose time to investigate exactly what is the issue. Is it the network issue or is it another problem before we identify maybe somebody has erroneously replaced your SIM card. And this is why we need to that. Then we advise the customer never to disclose the PIN to their friends and relatives. You see, there is no coincidence. If you went through those scripts, somebody loses the phone without the person who have taken your phone guessing. Even not 2 attempts, is able to pick your PIN and be able to pull money out of your wallet. For me, it tells us that we have some serious issues. People disclose the PIN to their loved ones. Sometimes a person will send their son or daughter to the shop, to the agent to withdraw money. This happens sometimes to your wife or your husband, and this is some of the things that we are picking in the market.
Yes, thank you, Jaffa. Sorry to interrupt you. You have already used 15 minutes, and the project broadcast team has added you 2 minutes to wind up. strictly 2 minutes. Thank you.
2 minutes, no problem. Thank you very much for that. Theft of the phone theft and robbery on fraud. Again, you can see the only defense that we are talking about here is your PIN. Always make sure that your PIN will protect you. And if you look at some of the communication, when your phone is stolen, keep your money safe by blocking your SIM card. Again, this is very important for us, for us to do that. So, in closing, how do we curb the cyber risk? First of all, when it comes to employing people, whether you are fintech or you are mobile financial services or you are bank, you have to go for high integrity customers, employ and train policies and procedures to govern, then processes and procedures. What we have done, and I can tell you, our cyber risks and securities come almost to zero. We really have issues that are actually on the fraud nowadays in our business, is to make sure that any transaction that is require security, it has a maker and a checker. One person cannot complete any process. Either it's a SIM swap, PIN reset, and all the other items, they have 2 levels of approval. Define account limits. I was listening to the panelists that presented before me again. Limits are very important. Depending on the value that is in the wallet, you have senior level management approving for changes in that wallet. Then all the information. And I want to assure you that we store your balances, your PIN in an encrypted mode. Nobody can actually access your PIN information when it's saved in our system. Awareness and education, share with customers on regular fraud, like I'm doing here. We need actually to keep everybody informed of what is happening in that industry. Educate the customer on the importance of reporting the phone when it's missing. Educate the customer on the importance of making PIN a bit complex. Most of us, most of you are using the same PIN across all the platforms for mobile banking, for mobile money. Please make it a bit complex. Don't use the year of birth. Don't use 0000. Don't use 121111. These are very easy pins to be hacked by anyone. Also, please ensure that you change your PIN anytime you feel like it has been compromised. Very important for you to keep that in mind. Governance and policies. We can actually curb this fraud as an industry if we were to share the NIN, the National Identification Number, across the industry, so that if there is a fraud that has happened in my business, I update the NIN in a shared data. Everybody else knows that this NIN has defrauded one of the partners, and therefore they block the transactions. And this is some of the communication that we are doing. Report any instance of fraud by calling 100. And this we can do. When you are called, when we call you, you only have to receive calls that are coming from a particular number from Airtel Money. And lastly, let me say this: most of the fronts that you have seen in the market are what we call social engineering. Why wouldn't you, as a customer, expose yourself? You have been told you have won and you never participated in a promotion. How did you win? Then you end up sending money and then you complain to us. You are told that there is a package that is coming from somebody in US. A package that you don't know even the person sending it. Then you are being told that you need to pay clearance money at the customs. Surely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Dfps Aritho is the CEO of Airtel Mobile Commerce. We thank you so much for your time, for flying in very early in the morning and being able to grace this event. A round of applause. Yes, thank you very much. Jeffak, you go out for a photo. Allow me to take this opportunity to briefly say what you said in our local language. I might not use Swahili. Jeffak ye akulira Airtel Mobile Commerce abadde ayogera ku sente zo wezibanga tebagenda kuzibanga ziri safe ku simu yo. Biki by'olina okukola? Pini yo eyo togiwa muntu mulala yenna. Essimu yo gitereke bulungi, tebagibba. Omuntu wakubira essimu n'agamba nti wawangudde promotion gy'otaabaddemu, lwaki agamba nti mpereze emitwalo 5 n'ogimuweereza ng'okimanyi bulungi tolina promotion gye wabaddemu? Ate ekisembayo, ebitongole nga bino Airtel, MTN, buli baba ne promotion balina ennamba zaabwe kwe bakubira abawanguzi, bazicommunicatinga buli kadde. So unless ye namba yekubidde, lwaki omuntu akubira ku namba ye n'agamba wawangudde emmotoka naye tuweerezeyo emitwalo 10 tu processing permit y'emmotoka, oyo omanya mufere. Thank you very much, Jaffath. Without wasting another time, you may please walk out for a photo with our CEO outside. Let me welcome Wendy. Wendy is going to take us through a very interesting panel. Rita, you may escort the Airtel CEO outside with Faizo from Airtel, Faizo Namanya. Thank you very much and well done. Yes, Wendy, I hope you have got the brief from Rita. We shall keep to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Thank you, everyone that is here. So today's panel we will be discussing women, youth inclusion, and gender equality. Women are overrepresented among the unbanked in Africa. The same applies to the youth, as we all know. And with the exception of South Africa, we find that women hold fewer bank accounts than men in most of the African countries. So women inclusion, gender equality is critical because providing women access to, digital financial services enables economic empowerment and thus development. So here are our panelists for today's discussion. I'll be inviting Flavia Kasenge from Easy Money, our Chief Operations Officer. Sharon Namugera, Bell Beauty Founder and CEO. Masi Angela Nantongo, Easy Agric, Product Manager. Guys, these are very important people. And one gentleman on the panel, Stephen Kakoza, Uganda co-founder and CEO. Thank you all for taking the time. I'm quite honored to be sitting with a lot of CEOs and co-founders here. And we're just going to take 30 seconds to just briefly introduce yourself, name, what you do, and what your company does. Very brief.
Well, thank you, Wendy, and thank you, hi people, and everyone for having us here. My name is Flavia Eleno Kasenge. I work with Easy Money. We are a technology company dealing with both financial and non-financial services, mainly focusing on the people at the bottom of the pyramid because we want their livelihoods to be, we need them to be happy. So we give them a POS which they operate. They can do bill payments, bill collections. We really need the people at the bottom of the pyramid to be able to access these services and make a living out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon?
I don't think it's on. It's on. Okay. Good morning. My name is Alice Sharon Namgera. I'm the team lead at Bell Beauty Uganda. Bell Beauty is a digital marketplace that connects beauty service providers and products merchants to customers. Basically, what we do is we connect if you're like a makeup artist, hairstylist, nail technician, if you deal in local products and you're selling, you have different things that you're selling that are beauty related, so we give you a platform to thrive. We use our app, we have apps, mobile apps, and we also have our website. So that's pretty much the gist of it.
Thank you, Sharon. Masi?
Good morning. My name is Masi Angela Nantongo, and I'm a product manager at Easy Agric. Easy Agric is an agriculture technology company, and our mission is to connect all the players in the agricultural value chain. That means we are providing solutions, technology-based solutions, for farmers to get access to markets, genuine farming inputs, access to financial institutions and credit through that, and as well as e-extension services. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephen Kakoza. I work with KAU. So what we do at KAU basically is we are trying to be the heroes we wish we had when we were still in school by enabling parents, students, and guardians to send, manage, and take charge of pocket money, basically by availing students with a smart card that they can use to withdraw, save part of their pocket money, pay goods and services within school, and do quite a number of things. And we're just trying to challenge the status quo, because everybody will tell about the smart card. They ask you about the app, they ask you about the POS machine, and I think that's the challenge that we are facing as Africans. We think everything must be upped. We think we have stuff that is already binding to our mind, and we're challenging that by bringing something new. So yeah, that's what we are dealing with.
Interesting. I'll be reaching out in case I'm in Kau. Anyway, going to our, the first question will be going to Sharon. As a woman, why do you think women are less financially included? Why are fewer women adopting digital financial services?
How many minutes do I have? Okay, because I could talk about this all day. Thank you for the question, Wendy. Just a second. Yeah, thank you for the question. So the reason as to why women are less involved in this whole financial inclusion thing, we can point it back down to it being foundational. We come from a place where women, our place was always in the kitchen. Our place was always to make sure that our home is good, our husbands are taken care of, our children are healthy. You're doing our role has always been restricted to being domestic. So we are just now rising out of the ashes to come and create something out of ourselves. So you're going to find that in as much as in the urban areas, this mindset has been well dealt with, it's not the same case with rural areas. And that's where the biggest population of women are at. So these foundational issues then feed into the fact that when a woman tries to create her own, there is domestic violence involved. You're going to find that when property is being owned, it's being owned by men, and now women do not have access to collateral so that they can access these the different financial products. So our problem is rooted in the foundation. It's rooted from years and years by the people who came before us, and we are still just trying to eradicate that and change the mindsets. So when you go to rural areas, you're going to find that a woman is still in charge of the home. Like a man will still, if she goes out to work, that's her business. But when she comes back home, she is still a wife, she still has to be a mother, she still has to make sure her home is well taken care of. So all that, when we deal with the foundational issues, when we deal with how people approach what women's involvement is with their role in the economy, then they shall be more adaptable to the financial inclusion programs.
Thank you very much, Sharon. What I'm hearing you say is that we need to empower our girl children to be able to become the things that we want them to become in the future. Like a book I read about a manifesto, a feminist manifesto by Chimamanda Ngozi, just talks exactly the point you just raised, that it's from the start, the kind of toys you choose to buy for your child. Do you buy them a doll, or do you buy them a computer, for that say? So it's very interesting that you raised it. So Stephen, with your experience in, with KAU Uganda, what do you see as the key obstacle of financial inclusion for the youth?
Thank you for the question. I think the first and primary obstacle to this is the lack of information, the lack of knowledge, the lack of a channel that students can get, or the youths or the young people can get this information. Because when you take a look at the current education system, they teach you the YDX, they teach you, history and everything, but they don't give you the basic principles of how it is important for you to save, how it is important for you to manage your finances. They don't give you those basic principles of how much you should save from what you earn. And you find that most youths are still in school, and when you're in school, you very well know that they don't allow you to have any digital devices with you. And most of the prevailing existing financial services, financial solutions require you to have a digital device with you. So how do you expect these people to be included in the economy? Absolutely no way. You see that? And secondly, I think we need to change the narrative. We need to change the way we groom the young people. It's unfortunate that most people are targeting to change the elderly. They want to extend financial inclusion to them, but it's just not possible. Like, think about it. Somebody spends over 16 years in school, and for these 16 years, they don't have access to any of this. They are used to their cash. They have their money in their pockets. They can go anywhere and buy stuff. And now, after 16 years, you're telling somebody to keep their money in the bank. It's just not possible. It's hard. And that's why you see, after graduation, they tell you to get a bank account because you got a job that pays you through a bank. And when they pay you at the end of the month, you go straight to the bank, collect all your cash, put it in a wallet, and then spend it annually. That's how over 97% of the bank accounts have less than, 1 million, which is quite, I'm curious if these people are having not more than that money, which I think is not the case. So I think we need to start with the young people, because in Uganda we actually have a saying that says, akacha mamamera bokagolola kamenye kabumenyisi, which is true even to this. So information should be made available to students, to young people, to the youth, which is what we are exactly doing. When we go to schools, we talk to the students, we talk to the young people, we tell them the benefits of saving. So KAU is not just about the smart card like most people think. It's more of extending this financial literacy, telling the students that you can actually save your money, and by the time you leave school, you don't actually need a job, you can create a job. That's the conversation we should be having. And you as parents, because you find that students really want to save, young people want to save, but they're afraid. Like, if my mommy knows I have some 10,000 I've kept, or daddy knows that, they won't give me any other money. So I have to use all this money and consume it over, which is hard. So I think those are the basic, obstacles to the inclusion of the youth in this financial economy.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Many years ago, when I was still a student, I would literally eat my money in 1 week after visitation, and the rest of the month, I'll be broke. So it's very nice, and I didn't know about savings. So it's very nice that we have solutions to empower, the youth to save from an early age. Flavia, in your opinion, what do you believe in limiting access to transactional mobile money accounts for women? Why are fewer women using mobile money?
I think it's the mindset. Right from the word go, mobile money is considered to be for the elite. So if you look at all the people in this room, we probably all have smartphones. We are not taking care of the people at the bottom of the pyramid. And to make matters worse, the menu of these phones is in English. So you want to communicate to a lady, a hardcore working lady down there in the market. They're going to the farm, they have to go to the market and sell their merchandise. You expect them to dial a USSD that is only speaking English. So we need to come up with innovative ways of, including all. We could be here in this hall and we're in our own movie. The women out there at the bottom of the pyramid, they don't understand what we're talking about. That is why I'm so impressed with Nicholas when he tries to, interpret, because we need to be very intentional about getting all the women. We have to include all of them. So we have to either change the menu to speak the language that people understand, not just Uganda, but people have, it's global. People need to be able to understand when they dial the USSD. And then I also feel like the USSD being in English, it's also a long process. So people would rather say, okay, let me keep my money under my bed because it's actually secure for me. And then I also don't have to pay charges for it. When it's under my bed, I feel like it's very secure and I'm in control. So we need to come up with ways of changing them. Then also, the men, some men are still primitive. They don't want their ladies or their women to have mobile phones. They don't want their ladies to save money because people have that mentality of, if women are empowered, they grow wild, like they change. They they don't stick to their rules. So most of the men take away these phones from women, and they use them. So we also need to change the mindset of the gentlemen in the rural areas. We need to be very intentional about it. So I think that is why there are less women using mobile money.
Thank you, Flavia. Just a yes/no kind of question. Do you think MNOs, MTN, Airtel should probably reduce the transactional fees for women? Knowing that they have KYC and we know we have this big problem, can they be quite direct to, reduce these fees for women?
Yes, they need to be able to really target the KYC for women and find out how they can incentivize them to be able to join the MNs.
MTN, Airtel, you've heard, Mercy, to you. There is an issue of social norms that constrains women accessing financial services. How do we evolve society, and what is the way we can actually use regressive social norms?
Okay. So one of the ways I think has just been mentioned, men do happen to currently be some of the gatekeepers that are holding women away from having access to financial services, or even to be included in the financial sector. And we have to work at a way at making them our allies, so that, for example, as part of the society norms, men are expected to be the financial provider for the families. And in that case also, that means they make the financial decisions for the families. So how do we work at making it that it's okay for a family to have not only one income, but two incomes? And then also, how do we make it that it is okay for a woman to go out and have a job, and her husband or even her brothers or even her father doesn't find it an issue for that to get involved? Another thing is, for some societies and for some communities and for some women, especially in the rural areas, there's a mobility issue for women. It's not easy for one to get out of the house and, let's say, even go to a mobile banking agent and get a SIM card for, Airtel or MTN. It even becomes harder for them to walk into a bank without being monitored. So how do we make it easier for women to leave their households, carry out financial transactions, and come back home and it's still okay? So this is not just for wives, but also for, daughters, sisters, siblings. There's that mobility issue to sort out. Also, again, mobility. You'll find in some families that women do not know how to drive, cannot ride a bicycle, even a motorcycle, and you find that a bank is, even 20, 30 kilometers away. How are they going to get there safely and also at an affordable price to get access to the services that we want them to have?
Thank you, Mercy. I'm starting to believe you're not an advocate for Kameza.
Kameza is okay, but it should be banked as well.
We'll probably create an app for that so we can record it. Thank you so much, Mercy. Flavia, to you again. What incentives can be deployed by service providers to improve women's inclusion?
Okay, let me use an example of MTN. MTN has a good app where you're able to send money for free from one MTN user to another. But I also feel like we're not taking care of the people with the feature phones, because this app requires internet. So the people with the feature phones will never know about the app, and they'll continue sending money at a fee. Probably now they're promoting it so people can get to use it. But we need to find a way of including the people with a feature phone, because not everyone can afford a smartphone. Smartphones, like on average, I think it's 300,000 on average. So we need to be able to cater for the feature phone users. And then I also think what I just mentioned earlier, we need to change the menu of our phones, like the USSDs. I think that can be done. Every time I go for like these talks, I keep saying that I wish there was someone who would come up, maybe it would be me anyway, to change, you see the phones that we have, to change the entire menu. Like, I know when we buy the phones, the only languages that are there are mainly French, the international languages, but how about the local languages? It would be so good for your mother in Chanamukaka or Masaka to be given a phone, and it speaks to her heart. Like if she, I probably don't know message in Uganda, but you just imagine that Jaja of yours having her phone and it is speaking her language. If it is Lunyankole, it is saying exactly that. They will be happy. But I think for the USSD, we can start in-house. I believe if MTN, Airtel, or the telcos that are coming up and the fintechs, these are USSDs for sending money. Can we change them to our local languages? Then you'll attract more people using them. People will be, you know, they'll have the enthusiasm to use them. And then I think also for the girl child, we need to start from schools. We need to be intentional about it. Let us go down to the schools and be able to talk to the children about having their money. Not, you know, when you go to school, you give your child pocket money in cash. So they get used to having it in cash. By the time they leave school and you're telling them about mobile money and, you know, having their money on the phone, it's really difficult. So we need to be intentional and go down and give them maybe cards, school card, pocket monies for saving, pocket money, so they don't have to have it in cash. I think it will go a long way to, you know, to help us.
Thank you very much, Flavia. To the fintechs here, food for thought. I think we all need, as you mentioned, we all need to be very intentional about, you know, our products being fit for the women in Uganda. Stephen, what must be done for more youth to be financially included? Where do we start from?
I think now is no time for us to think of what we don't have, but to think of what we can do with what we have. And so, before you think of anybody out there to help you include more youth into the financial space, you need to start with you, with yourself, with you seated back there. And this is the information we give to the students. We tell them, go tell mommy or tell father when you go back home that tata netaga kadi. Because if you wait for them to do it for you, they will probably not. This is your life, this is your future. You have to stand up and work for it. You see, the most right time to plant a tree would have been 20 years ago, but the other next best time is now. And so if we need more of these people, we need to start by empowering them to do things there and then, by giving them stuff that can solve the problems that they feel. By we as the youth, as Africans, as Ugandans, tackling our own problem. Because when you explain KAU to somebody who has never been in a Ugandan or East African boarding school, they don't see sense in it. If you explain it to somebody who has never eaten kaunga or kaukumi, they don't see. They say, what do you mean? But if you go and talk to somebody who has been in boarding school for like 2 years, 3 years, they say, boy, I need this card. I need it because they have the pains, they have the pain points. And we need to change that to having that, you know, being tied up to Western solutions, to creating our own solutions that benefit, that tackle the real problems that the youths are facing. And secondly, when you look at most of these financial institutions, the people that they employ are elderly people. These are people who have, they require like masters, they will even ask for PhD, stuff like that, which most youths don't have. And you see, it is very hard for you to relate with someone who is not your age mate, which I think is also a case for ladies and associating with men in banks and other institutions. So I do think if we can get students do stuff for their selves, they can get more than I think that's why it's been a little bit easy for us to relate to the students, to relate with the youths, because we are just like them. When they see us, they see themselves, and so they can relate as we do. So it makes things a little bit easier.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. And Sharon, in 1 minute, what is the current state of women's representation in the financial technology space? are you happy with the current female representation in Uganda?
Thank you, Wendy, for the question. Before I answer the question, I just want to add on something very little to what she said when she was speaking about incentives that could, encourage women to be included more and all that. For me, I just wanted to point out to the innovators themselves. We can say, the government should do this, or this should do that, or the other one should do the other thing, but it comes back to us who are actually coming up with these solutions. Keep three things in mind. How is your solution value adding to that person that you're creating it for? Because we are always you're going to find that it's always people in the urban areas that are actually innovating these solutions. You're not on ground to actually understand the dynamics of the lives of the people you're trying to create this solution for. So when you don't understand that, you will find that your solution will have a miss. It will not add value to the person you're creating it for. This person who wakes up in the morning to go and farm, who has children to take care of, who has like so many responsibilities on top of being just alive. I mean, with the current economic situation, sometimes we are just trying to survive. How is your solution adding value to them? Let the value addition component in your solution be the pull factor, be the convincing factor to that woman who has all these responsibilities to actually buy into what you're trying to offer. So the value addition component is very, very key to whatever solution you're trying to come up with, so that women are included in this whole financial thing. And then, thank you. And then another thing, make it affordable, because we know the high transaction costs that come with these things. Like, we can create a solution, come up with a solution, and your why is really very captivating. But when it comes to the transaction costs are really high for that woman you're trying to do it for. Because for her, all she said, why should I pay tax, and then I pay withdrawal, and then you're going to do this charge, and then you're going to do that? So it's very important to remember those two factors when you're coming up with that solution. That is how that woman in the farm in Kapchora will try and get a buy into what you're actually selling to them. Then to answer your question.
30 seconds.
Thank you. So when you look at the statistics, there is a report I was reading, the UNCDF report about gender inequality, and they were saying like less than 25% of the women today actually have access to financial products. Like, women in the rural areas are more inclined to their informal saving groups. They lean onto those ones for solutions. Like, lend me, I'll give it back to you next week, we shall do like this, the money round thing. But they are less inclined to join informal settings for financial solutions. So that's less than 25%. And then when you look at the access to mobile technology, because most of these solutions come with that requirement of having a mobile phone, you're going to find that almost less than 50, or slightly above than 50% have access to smartphones. Not to talk of normal mobile phones, just button mobile phones. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Sharon. And Mercy, in just 1 minute again, what must be done to have more women get involved in leadership, innovation, and development of fintech solutions?
I like that Sharon is using statistics and actual data. I also did some research about women in leadership in financial products. So, according to research by ITU, which is the UN's primary agency for people in the ICT sector, more than 50% of the players or the workers in the financial sector, think of people like mobile money agents and bank tellers, those are women. But when you look at women in leadership roles in the financial industry, it becomes 20%. And it's even less when this is women in emerging markets, such as Uganda. So some of the ways that we can work to tackle this is, how do we champion women in leadership? And even better, when it's a young woman like me, how do we encourage them to take up leadership roles in the organizations that they're working in? Some of those ways is even having awards. So you see how we're celebrating fintechs in East Africa today. How do we then celebrate women in fintech or women in financial industries so that young girls, such as my sister, can see women doing things, women that look like them, doing things that seem impossible sometimes.
Thank you very much,
that's important.
Mercy. Really appreciate. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't expect that. A round of applause for Wendy. And thank you, the beautiful ladies and the gentlemen. You can now take our...
Are we having any questions?
Actually, Nicholas is coming on to translate what has been happening, because I don't find myself very, very perfect for translation.
Right, thank you. Before I do the translation, you would have at least used 30 seconds to use Rutolo and explain what was happening before I convert to Luganda. Anyway, thank you, Rita. Thank you, Wendy. We have had Wendy. She has been in this fintech industry for quite some time. We have had, for all wrong reasons, we have had from Easy Money, we have had Flavia. Never mind Flavia, my apologies. We have had Flavia from Easy Money. We have had Sharon from Bella Beauty. We have had Massive from Easy Agric and Stephen Kakoza from KAU. So they have been talking about women, gender, financial inclusion. Abatulaba ku BBS Telefina panene baddewo badde boogera ku bakyala n'abavubuka ngeri ki gye tusobola okuyamba abakyala n'abavubuka okubeera financially included, ngeri ki tusobola okuyamba abakyala okubanga bakozesa mobile money. Abaami mulekerawo okujja ku bakyala amasimu gaabwe, pini zaabwe muzitwala, bakola ebintu batuuka bitunda ssente mwabagala ozifuna ate ne muzimyamu omwenge amanga other things. Abakyala bano badde bagamba nti ebintu ebyo byava ku mulembe biswaza. You should be very ashamed. Omukyala muleka akola emirimu gye, ssente ze zigenda ku ssimu ye azikozese aweereza abantu bonna because naye muntu nga gwe. Omwami Kakooza abadde ayogera ku baana b'amasomero nti n'abaana b'amasomero tubayigiriza okumanaginga ssente nga bakyali bato, nga tutandikira ku pocket money. Omuwe $5,000 muwe limiti gy'akozesa buli lunaku nti buli lunaku nusu 10 oba 5 so that amanya ezo za mwezi. Kati wagenda ye n'aziryanga omuvubi n'azimalawo mu nnaku 4 ategeere ekivaamu muzikozesa obubi. Without saying so many words, thank you ladies and gentlemen. You can please go outside for a group photo and I will invite Rita to take us through the next session. But allow me also recognize the presence of the High People Patron, Honorable David Kalubanga, the Honorable Member of Parliament of Tekinologiya constituency is right there. If I can have the camera, that is Honorable David Kalubanga, the Honorable Member of Parliament of Tekinologiya County, is the patron of High People. So for all the great work Innocent as the CEO has done, you are sure he has a strong team that is led by our patron. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rita.
Thank you, Nicholas Kalunji. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rita Kabanyor again, and those watching us from BBS Telefina Eyo Wakabaka Wafe. So the panel that just left, Nicholas, I'm going to still take it in Rutoro. Thank you for the chance. Runyoro Rutoro. Abekeire mbabaza hano, bekeire mbagambaho engeri abakazi n'ensinganto musobola kuganyirwamu mu nkola eno ya tekinologiya y'ebyensimbi rundi ebikwato ebyokukolesa ensimbi ne tekinologiya. Mwebale mno. Let us continue. We are live on Met Media, so you can catch up there on social media platforms, that is YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as High People platform. So you can as well stream there on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, plus BBS Telefina. And also, I'm coming in from Nile One Studios, which is a content production space, so you're always welcome. For now, what I can say, we are glad to welcome on stage right now, that is a speech from John Mark Sebunya, who is the General Manager, Technology, Strategy, and Architecture, MTN Group FinTech. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, applaud for him as he takes on a stage.
Is it afternoon? Is it morning? Good morning. I have my boss who, whether it's 7 p.m., he will greet you good morning, and the moment you reply good morning, he knows you are asleep. So I'm privileged to be here. I'm going to talk about Open API, a subject that I like, I'm very passionate about. By a show of hands, can I see those that use Open APIs? By a show of hands. I see very few hands. Are we awake? Those that use Open APIs? APIs, those that use APIs, I've seen just like 5 hands, 10, 20. Okay, so each one of us here uses APIs in one way or the other. I have just about 10 minutes to talk about APIs. It's something, if we were to discuss, we can take a whole day discussing APIs, but I try to summarize key elements about APIs in this session. Just about me. Currently, I'm the head of the GSM Working Committee for Mobile Money API. The Working Committee is for all mobile money providers across the world and digital financial service platform providers. So I chair that committee for the API. Like I think I was introduced, I'm the general manager in charge of technology strategy and architecture for FinTech, Group FinTech, MTN Group. What that means is that all the technology that you see from Cape Town to Cairo, from Mombasa to Dakar, Senegal, as long as MTN technology for FinTech, I directly or indirectly have a hand in delivering it. So for the FinTechs around here, why that is important, tomorrow you might want to scale and go to Cameroon, go to Nigeria, a very big market for us. You can always contact me. APIs, my comrade from Airtel, in his presentation, talked about something about risk. I hope we did see that slide. It had elements around closed systems. Then they had a middle ground of what you could call medium risk open systems. And then it went to the level of what you call open API-led systems. Now, what we as fintechs should be able to appreciate is that we work in an ecosystem. Previously, if you were a bank here, you were a Stanbic, a Stanchart, if you looked at these banks 20 years ago, they were what we could call closed systems. Even when you look at MTN, away from mobile money, if you look at the GSM business, it is largely a closed system. Now, as fintechs, 40 Days for the Fintechs has had over 47 or 48 fintechs participating. Every year it's having this kind of number. Now, this number is playing in an ecosystem. An ecosystem where you find yourself, you could be doing a lending product, you could be doing an insurance product, you could be an aggregator, you could be providing financial solutions for what you could call microfinance institutions. So you are playing in an ecosystem. Now, for you to play in an ecosystem, you need to be enabled. How do you get enabled? APIs are a key enablement within the ecosystem. When we talk the word open for a simpler interpretation, it could mean internet access. Something that you can access over the internet. That's where the word open can be interpreted in very simple terms. When we talk open, in many of the engagements, you will find people talking open API, open data, open banking. Open banking is a buzzword at the moment. We as Uganda and Africa are still not yet there, but we shall be going that line. So Open API is simply about exposing largely proprietary APIs onto the public internet. This is what we are trying to do with Open APIs. Open data is more around if you have data as a financial service provider or as an institution, like a utility provider, you may need to expose that data. And for you to expose it, you can be playing in what we call open data approaches. Then open banking, which is a buzzword now, it's more around financial service providers exposing their data to payment initiation service providers who can do innovations around it. Many of us are using some of these capabilities. Even though in infancy, we are using many of these. My subject today was supposed to talk Open API and cloud computing, though 10 minutes, these are very broad topics, so I decided to zero down only on the Open API element. But for you to play effectively, you also need cloud computing. There was a panel discussion around cloud, and it talked about many benefits of using cloud. So why do we use Open APIs? As fintechs, it is about fast, secure, and self-service. The keyword here that I may zero in more is self-service. Like clouds, self-service is paramount. You want to be wherever you are and provision for your infrastructure. The same happens with APIs. You want a fintech to sit wherever it is, access your API, test it, deploy in production, and work with your service. If I'm MTN, I would want that. I don't need to interface you directly for you to have my service. So self-service is very important. Niche, you would be big. If you are doing lending, if you are doing agriculture, if you are doing insurance, within your niche, you will be big. And in being big, you need to expose your APIs, and in that sense, you also need to have an awesome third-party experience. So, key components in self-service are good documentation, easy onboarding, easy billing and settlement. Now, some of this is something those that have been in the fintech space, especially on the technical angle, know. If you can't find good documentation about an API, it will be very hard for you to use it. A sandbox is important for testing. About protecting yourself and your reputation, security by design is very important. In cloud, we talk about zero trust security. Everything that you do, you deploy, should have a zero trust approach. So you ensure you secure link every element. And of course, the awesome third-party experience, that will talk about SLAs and your community support. So these are things that are paramount for each of us to reflect about. They're important if you're going to scale as a financial services provider. This slide is just about MTN. We were a first in this market, I should say, to deliver an open API since 2018. Hands to that. Many of you fintechs here are using our API, and this has made it very simple and light. You don't need to know me in MTN for you to start using that API. Literally, you don't need to know someone in MTN. 5 years ago, you needed to have a contact, come to the MTN office, someone tells you I'm in a meeting, I will give you an appointment next week. That's no more. So Open API and the point of self-service. So we've scaled across Africa. Our API is available across Africa. If you're a fintech here and you want to go to Nigeria, to Cameroon, to Liberia, to Guinea-Bissau, all these are operating countries. If you want to go and do a service there, we make it easy for you. One single integration, and then you can play in that market. Like I said, I chair the GSMA Mobile Money API Working Group. The GSMA has worked on an API specification since 2006. This API specification is to help us harmonize the APIs. So it's important, those that are keen, you should also follow this subject on how we can adopt the GSMA API. The project, 40 Days for the Fintechs, has had quite a detailed engagement about level 1 principles. I believe all the fintechs here now know level 1 principles. The level 1 project, initiated over 5 years ago, was looking at what do we do to ensure that the ecosystem can be effective at scale. How do you make integrations, 47 fintechs here, how do you make the integration into an ecosystem as light as possible? So the level 1 project is partly about that. So within that, we also need to think about open APIs as enablers for interoperability. Moja Loop within this forum is not a new term. So the Moja Loop technology is based on an open API specification. What that means is that today, if you want to understand Moja Loop, all you do, go to the internet, put Moja Loop, you find a specification, go and deploy. So this is aimed to ensure that we have open source technologies, but importantly, these technologies are open API led. Interoperability was one of the topics that was discussed here. This is just to show the scale of interoperability. It shows the countries, but the point I want to leave us with here is that Uganda is not shown here. We are not yet at the level of deploying an interoperable switch. So we need to advance on this level, and Moja Loop open APIs will be fundamental in achieving this. And lastly, my last remark to all of us, do we all want to achieve $1 million in our wallets? I hear no voices. Do we want to achieve $1 million? Okay, so this is my prayer. For us to achieve $1 million, we need to embrace open APIs. Banks, fintechs, telecoms, all need to embrace open APIs. Why I'm tying this to you achieving $1 million or whatever amount it is, when you do that, it makes it cheaper for the ecosystem. So where you would have spent 10 million Uganda shillings, probably you spend 2 million. So you would save the 8 million into your business. Your integrations will be lighter, uniform. You don't need to do 10 integrations to different financial service providers.
Mr. Sewunya, in 30 seconds.
Into the switch. So that's what I want to leave us with us. Let's embrace open APIs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Mr. John Max Sewunya. Whoever will be wanting that presentation should find Charlotte and give in mails. We will surely be distributing that presentation. For now, we're going to have a panel discussion on enabling regulation for digital financial services. And just to highlight, the reason for this is that digital financial services support sustainable and inclusive growth by facilitating the delivery delivery of affordable and innovative financial products. So which is why we felt that vulnerable groups and additionally digital finance facilitating the creation of efficient and effective payment infrastructure, it was very wise to have this discussion. Please join the panelists as they come on the podium. Ivan Ojakul, who is a tech lawyer and lecturer. A round of applause as he takes on his seat. Ivan, where are you? Thank you. We've got Emmanuel Mugabe, who is Manager, Governance and Risk at NITA Uganda. We have got James Mukasa, Founder and CEO of MoneyCent, a fast-growing local fintech startup. And then Brian Kalule, who is who is a company secretary at FITSPA. It is a financial technology service provider association with more than 50 members. Okay, join me now as we break the ice on this one. If you don't mind, if you just don't mind, can someone take up this seat here, and so that I cannot spy your seat? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone watching us, I'm not going to actually give you some seconds to talk about your products, but I just pray that you somehow jangle it as you are presenting to us. I'll kickstart it with Ivan Ojakul to let us know what is the state of fintech regulation in Uganda and in Africa currently. What major milestone has happened in the very first 5 years? Ivan Ojakul. Thank you. I think it's on. All right, ladies and gentlemen watching us from BBS Tedefina, we are going to discuss enabling regulations for digital financial services. My name is Rita Caballero with the gentleman here, Ivan Ojakul. Is it now clear?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you so much. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you, Rita, for the question. The fintech landscape in Uganda is buzzing. Of course, we have now an act since 2019 to regulate, since 2020 to regulate the sector, the National Payment Systems Act, and we have a proper regulator established by the act, which is Bank of Uganda. There is a lot of activity in the market, with a lot of venture capital coming in. We've been hearing of all these deals happening, not only in Uganda but across. I mean, the likes of Wave. Paystack, I think Stripe invested a huge amount about 2 years ago in Paystack, the Nigerian fintech, likes of Cheaper Cash, Flutterwave, etc. So it is buzzing, undoubtedly, and regulation seems to be taking shape. Whether or not you agree with the regulation is another discussion for another day, but there is now a proper law, and the sector is buzzing. On the continental landscape, I've mentioned already that Sub-Saharan fintech like Flutterwave, Cheaper Cash, Eversen, etc. have made a lot of inroads. Of course, as the sector is buzzing, there's also been a lot of bad press around some of the big boys. You've all been hearing what's going on in Flutterwave. Someone came up with a report in Nigeria. I think in Kenya, it cannot do any activity. In Ghana, same thing. Cheaper Cash also. So in as much as the sector is buzzing, there are also lessons to be drawn from some of the things. Whether or not they are true is a discussion for another day, that perhaps other smaller fintechs will have to draw lessons from that and see what they can learn from that. As far as Africa is concerned, again, there's something called the African Continental Free Trade Area, and under the African Continental Free Trade Area, a Pan-African payment and settlement system has been mooted in conjunction with Afrexim Bank, that should be able to enable cross-border payments in local currencies. Someone had mentioned that it is quite expensive and quite, I think it was you, the moderator, that your payment delayed because you're using a Visa card. Now what PAPS, as it's shortened, in its abbreviation is called, is going to come and help make those payments instant, because Visa is not African, Visa is somewhere in Europe. So
just a second, Mr. Ojakul, sorry to interject there. I'm going to get back to you on that particular same point. I'm just trying to play around with time. Let me cross to Brian Kalule to speak to us about Uganda and how it has rolled out so far the National Payment Systems Act and how it has impacted the industry. If you could share with us the positives and the negatives within 2 minutes, strictly 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so as my colleague Ivan mentioned, the National Payments Systems Act is in place. Starting with the upside, it has given the industry credibility. It's brought it to the mainstream. People here are talking about APIs. Those are words we never used to hear about for us, the lawyers. But it's brought it to the mainstream. It's gotten credibility. There's been a lot of interest in fintech companies in Uganda, especially from entities seeking to invest in the country, and that's because there is legislation. It paints a picture of a reliable and secure system. So that has been the biggest upside. But of course, there is always a downside, and sitting from the view of FITSPA, where we interact with these fintechs, is that it has increased the regulatory cost. All the things take money. You need, for instance, if you make an application to BOU to get a license, they will ask you get more shareholders, get more directors, hire what they call key functions, hire a risk person, hire compliance. You know, all this is money because these are people who are going to have to be paid. So then the other unintended consequence has been to lock out small entities. The licensing fees, I think they range, because they require minimum capital for different licensing categories, and these range from 100 million shillings to 10 billion shillings. So entities that can't afford those minimum requirements can't get a license.
Okay.
So the small, really small entities have been left naked, so to speak. And then the last is, it was supposed to create a certainty in the market, but it has ended up creating uncertainty. I mean, there are so many, fintech is a very big ecosystem. Now there are people who don't know whether what they do is licensable or not. So they are there, they don't know what to do.
Okay.
And from my experience, when you ask BOU for guidance, they will say, just get a license. That's their default position.
Thank you so much. Let me cross to Emmanuel Mugabe here to share with us, at least from where you sit, and how has the 2020 National Payment System Act has been impacted in the industry. And from where you sit, are we ready for the National Payment Act and where the industry is? Are the players ready as well? Do we need regulations anyway? And how the qualifying of submission comes in, if you could share with us.
Thank you so much. Well, it has so many angles to the question, but yes, Brian has really talked about the Payment Systems Act, and now it has been rolled out. Were we ready for the mobile network operators who are already doing mobile money, the likes of MTN, Airtel, Africell, before they left? Those were ready because they already had those functions, risk, compliance, legal. So those were very ready. The challenge came into the innovators who know how to code, how to deliver product, how to market a product, and now they had to meet this new set of requirements that they had never interfaced with in their business planning. So there was a bit of a challenge. When I last checked Bank of Uganda, maybe Brian will confirm this, but the list currently Bank of Uganda says they've licensed about 22 fintechs, so either providing a payment service or a payment platform. But from different reports, even in this room I'm seeing so many, we have over 70, 50 plus upwards of people in the fintech space. So that means there's a challenge, there's a gap in knowledge and skill. Is it relevant? This is what I have to say. Bank of Uganda sent out a report for the financial stability for March 2022 for March 2021. And if you look at the amounts in there, debit card transactions were over 1.2 trillion. Mobile money transactions in that same period were above 145 trillion. Crime affecting the sector was over 4 billion in 1 year. So you can see there is 1.2 trillion for credit card. People who use POS, internet banking is much less, about 800. Then you have this high figure, 145 trillion, mobile money, and then back down. So this shows you that definitely the regulation is required because this is people's money.
Thank you.
There has to be an oversight to make sure that there's accountability, there's responsibility, but most importantly, there is safety and efficiency when it comes to trust of the payment systems that we are using.
Thank you so much. Let me cross to James Mukasa. As a startup into the ecosystem, what are your views about regulation regime? Is it a pro or anti-fintech? Do we see, does, these answers qualify anyway, even as a startup, please?
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I recognize God here with us. So, first of all, the regulators talk about cashless economy. Mm-hmm. There is no cashless economy without financial inclusion. There is no. And the only people or the only organizations to do that are the fintechs. But then there are tight regulations that lead to so many fintech companies working the dark, which in the end bring a lot of trouble because there are fines on working in the dark. And you see, these regulations have been here for so many years. Just that a country like ours had never taken an initiative of coming up with any. And this is not new to the rest of the world. It's only new here. Uganda is a startup itself, and she knows how hard it is to start. So now, I think when they were putting up regulations, like they did not ask me, they did not call me, so I do believe they actually might have asked the big players in the market, which is not the case here, because we're starting up and they're copying from Nigeria or maybe Kenya or maybe Tanzania on how they're regulating. Of course, we need regulations. They're very important because they safeguard the transactions, and people make payments. But I think they should have set aside regulations for fintech companies, because fintech is new here. Even if it's 20 years ago, it's still new here. So they would have said, because companies come like, let's say, Wave or Cheaper Cash with hundreds of millions of dollars here. So the regulations that have been set are for everyone. And most especially, they are kicking us out of the market.
Okay.
When I'm to put this on a graph of 100, then we have pro and anti-fintech. Then anti-fintech is about 40%. They're trying to put up all these regulations to kick us out of the market. It's very sad. So what we need to do is to sit together and find out what are the challenges that we are facing, so they can set up regulations depending on that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you can still continue watching this particular panel and everything happening here that is using Hi People on its platform, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as Met Media. It is also streaming on the social media platforms. Do not forget to keep the hashtags going on Twitter, because there is a prize to win. I'm going to get back to Ojako. I know there has been a lot of rush at the beginning. I had my reasons, but I promised that I would get back to you to complete your point. It's the time now.
Okay, I was talking about there's a unique offering at the African Union under the AFCFTA. I hope everyone has heard about the AFCFTA right now. If you've not heard about the AFCFTA right now, please, I don't know what you're doing living on Earth. So they partnered with the Afrexim Bank on something called the Pan-African Payment and Settlement Systems Platform, something like that. So basically, it's other than you transacting through Visa or any of those international payment platforms and systems, they're now creating a localized Pan-African system through which, for example, if I'm transferring money to someone in, what's the Zambian currency, Kwacha, I use my Ugandan shilling here, and they will receive the money instantly in Zambian Kwacha. There's no dollar involved anywhere, there's no euro involved anywhere, etc. And perhaps that could, and I was saying perhaps that could help in answering some of the problems that you had when you transacted using Visa. And I think it was the gentleman from Centenary Bank who explained that it was because Visa is located elsewhere. And
it wasn't about the machine getting spoiled.
Yeah, so, I don't know, but perhaps all those controls that the money has to go through before it eventually comes to you. So we cannot run away from the fact that the economic system of the world is is not African. It is run elsewhere, and those are
Okay.
some of the avenues through which the white man still colonizes us in one way or the other.
Okay, thank you so much, Ivan Ojaku. For now, let me cross to, this goes to Emmanuel Mugabe and James Mukasa. I'll kickstart it with Mugabe to tell us how are the fintechs licensing and regulatory approaches undertaking on across the sub-Saharan Africa impacting financial inclusion. Also, is the regulation quickening or delaying financial inclusions? And if there are any reasons, why do you think so? Emmanuel.
Thank you so much. So what's happening in Uganda is almost the same that's happening in sub-Saharan Africa. And that was set by the basis that fintech involves a lot of technology, and then trying to match that with the existing traditional controls around finance and bring in the law. Like Brian has mentioned, now lawyers understand APIs, they understand all these things, because it has brought it to the front light. So what's happening in Uganda is actually the same that's happening across different parts of sub-Saharan Africa, with previously it was a regulator a fintech dealing with so many licenses. You'd have to go to, in most cases, it's a communications regulator or the technology regulator. Then you go to the Financial Intelligence Authority, then you go to the central bank, then if an insurance, then you go to another. So it was a mess, but now we're seeing movement unifying it towards the central bank in those countries, harmonizing the regulation to make it much easier for fintechs. Number two, the best thing for regulation for a normal person is to know that you've had this advice where they're saying, please bank with, at the end they say licensed by Bank of Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've had an advert licensed by Uganda Communications Commission. So when you hear that as a user, there's a bit of trust that I can use this platform. The app won't disappear, the website won't disappear. I can trace what happens. So if trust is very important in any economy. If there's any deficit, then there will be customer flight. So it's, in a way, it improves digital inclusion. Number two, the Payment System Act actually has a bit of, not a bit, a strong part where it supports innovation. It has what we call a sandbox innovation, and it allows innovators to create solutions and test them in the market and see that work without all the weight of regulation. And we've seen two come through that. One of them was Wave. There's another which was Bank of Uganda published last week that allows that to happen. So the gentleman that was in the first panel who said he has invented, I wouldn't say invention because we're discussing it with Ivan, he has developed a way of sending money through WhatsApp, QR codes, that can work now under Bank of Uganda. You can apply it to the sandbox. So that's...
We're actually going to speak about the sandbox in a little bit. Maybe you give it
so
your
I'll just summarize and say
submission around
that,
there.
yes, the innovation is allowed, and in a way that makes it easier to scale, get to market, and support more people getting into the digital space.
Thank you so much. James, may we have your opinion, please?
Thank you so much. I'm off. Oh, thank you so much. Now, governments and central banks are coming together to agree that it is only fintechs that can do this job. I'll give a simple story if I have the time. I met a group of ladies in Mokono. They were shop saleswomen, and I was telling them about money sent, how they could save money with anyone around the world and get that money in queues like online BBNA. So after a 20 minutes discussion, I asked them, does any one of you have a bank account? They said, no. They literally said, Ebyo biabasoma. Literally meaning like, those are for the learned, you get. So it is only the fintech companies that can do the job to the last mile. And then, how are these licensing and regulations impacting the fintech, the financial inclusion? Is now we are almost 100 fintech companies in the country, and only 17 have been licensed to work. This is very, very slow, because they have to take a lot of time to look through whatever that we're going to do. And like I told you, fintech companies are actually pushing more on our economic growth, like as a country. So the time they take to address us is very, very, very long. So I think they are taking it so slow, because if we are only 100 and then 17 have been licensed, then I think they are
Thank
slow.
you. This one was really off, but maybe because we all belong to the fintech, one of the fintechs. Maybe I can have your opinion in 30 seconds. You say the pace is slow. I'm just wondering if fintechs are making it easy for them to be regulated. What do you think? I'm going to start with Ojaku, sorry. What do you think in just 30 seconds? Are you making it easy for being regulated, Rick?
Well, as a lawyer, and I know my senior learned colleague Brian here will agree, from handling some applications at Bank of Uganda for the licenses. Yes, there's still a lot of brick and mortar. Yes, there have been some innovations. They have a department that handles specifically those applications. I must credit them for that. But there's still a lot of brick and mortar involved, submission of papers and them going through things. So regulatory technology is important. There are so many best practices all over the world, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. Of course, we cannot run away from the kind of country that we are in, low internet penetration and what have you,
Thank you so much.
Perhaps that is something to aspire to.
Let me speak to James. How do you think about that? Are you making it easy? What do you think?
Like I told you that we are living in an instantaneous world where even if it's 5,000 miles, it's too close to us.
Okay.
So we are making it easy because our applications are very simple to use. Of course, they really are easy.
I'll call that a sample research conducted by Rita. Let me just cross now to Ivan Ojaku and Brian Kalule to speak to us about the regulatory sandbox. We're coming to that, and how practical are they in exhibiting fintech opportunity, fintech products, delivery, and also speaking about Uganda, for example. I'll start it with Brian Kalule to share with us. What do you think on this?
All right, thanks. So the idea of the sandbox is a very good idea. Well, like most ideas, so they're always good. But the trouble is with the implementation. And speaking about BOU and its sandbox, it says that if you have an innovative financial product, then you can get accepted into the sandbox. But the question is, what is innovative? I mean, that's always the catch. So when applicants take their products, they tell them that's not very innovative. Just go and apply for a license. I would think it would have been better for it to apply to entities who think that they are not ready for the mainstream license to use the sandbox. Maybe they don't have the minimum capital. Maybe they don't have the market segment as yet. Instead of focusing on the innovativeness, because frankly there's nothing new under the sun, they should just make it available to people who don't think they are ready to go in the mainstream. Yeah. So that, for me, that has been the biggest issue with the sandbox.
Okay. So I'm wondering, kachike tunakoleso kupima innovativeness in the sandbox. Do you have an idea, Brian?
Well, and the bad thing is it's BOU that determines what's innovative.
You can help.
But essentially they look at something which is not already in the market. And then if it's not already in the market, they say, well, maybe that's innovative. Come and try it out. But if it looks like something somebody else is doing, they say, totally innovative. Dayo yongero kufumba. So and it's not surprising. I think there are only about 3 entities that have been admitted in the sandbox so far. But there are so many people who would want to try out their products.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm still with you because I know with the sandbox recently that Bank of Uganda opened up to the Blockchain Association of Uganda on, crypto ideas, blockchain ideas. What I'm concerned with personally is the time, the process. I don't know if it is something that is reflecting on your side, or you're okay with the whole process, even when they are actually opening up to ideas 5 years from now. You're still okay with that?
Well, actually, they didn't open it up. They said we are discussing.
Yeah.
So it's not yet open.
Okay.
Yeah, but you don't know how long that discussion is going to take.
All right, thank you.
It's a very slow thing.
Thank you so much. Let me cross to Ivan Ojaku to let us know about the regulatory sandbox. What are your ideas around those lines?
Just to add voice what Brian has said, and also your what you've just said. The implementation is, for me, a bit flawed. And of course, it also ties into the policy direction that the Bank of Uganda and perhaps government has taken concerning crypto and blockchain, etc. if you have reservations about crypto and blockchain, why don't you test them through a regulatory sandbox and determine if indeed your reservations are validated or if, you know, they are assuaged in whatever way they can be assuaged. So you're admitting, I'm not attacking this company, you're admitting a company like Wave, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the understanding of a regulatory sandbox is a unique product that you're not sure about in the market, and you bring it in a controlled environment to test if it will actually work, or if it will actually succeed, or it will actually be good for the market. And then Wave that comes with mobile money that is not innovative as far as I'm concerned. The mobile money players, the legacy players have been here for a very long time. Why do you admit Wave into a sandbox? Over 1 year, with all the capital that have come with, all the money that have come with. Why don't you admit some crypto player that you think may be defrauding people, and you see if indeed it will defraud people for 1 year, you test them, you give them direction, and you work with them, and you grow. So the implementation is very much flawed, and Bank of Uganda has to benchmark, even here in Africa, Mauritius is doing a very good job as far as that is concerned. So for me, that is problematic. Even the recent admission of Kalipa Capital there, it's a normal payment platform, a normal payment player. What is special about what they're offering? Where are they going into that sandbox and they have all the money? Let them apply for the licenses. So for me, that's a bit problematic.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just not taking it personal. That was a very expressive point. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to the team here. Still moving on, we're going to our last discussion, and it is for all of you gentlemen. How can African countries use the level 1 project principles such as the tiered KYC? We've got pricing transparency and ensuring that regulation supports the use of the digital financial systems actually to deepen financial inclusion. And I'll start with Emmanuel here.
Thank you so much. Actually, I sat through all the panels, and I think all the previous panels answered that about tiered KYC. In Uganda, it's a bit of, there's a minimum base that you have to consider, and for most people under the payment space, identity is tagged to the national ID. So if somebody doesn't have a national ID, then you can't, it will be high risk to continue and onboard that person. So for tiered KYC in other countries, it could be as simple as your pastor writing a letter and say, I know, so and so, please open up an account for them. That's for very low value accounts. But for Uganda, the baseline has been set as a national ID. So you can flex on any other thing, but the baseline has been set. When it comes to the transparency, yes, that's a principle that definitely comes into play for fintechs, which will also, if there is opaqueness about payments, it will affect how people use your platform. So if there's more transparency, and we have this already embedded within regulations that we're doing. The third aspect was on payment revocability, and that's exactly what happened in your case, where a payment was done, and you're looking for the reverse with the different things that come in. So us as customers, we're asking for speed. If I pay him, I want the money to go now. So it's important that that is achieved within the payment system to achieve that level of speed. Now, how to embed that within when it comes to things to do with reversals, if there are mistakes that were done, if you put the wrong number by mistake, if you put the wrong account number, if you missed a digit, yeah, those are aspects that have to be catered for in design rather than regulation. Regulation deals with principles.
Okay.
But how to do that in the design are practices that have to be promoted, just like we are promoting Modular Loop. This platform can also promote best practices in design of the solutions among the fintech space.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Let me cross to Brian to share with us what he has to say about this.
Level 1 project. I think for me the biggest hindrance and I think the mindset will need to change are the regulators. They will need to, I don't know if they should create separate regulatory bodies that understand some of the things like level 1 project. But the problem, and I'm looking at Uganda for example, we have the Bank of Uganda who regulates, who used to regulating banks and financial institutions. They have a set standard of doing things, and they are transposing the same approach to fintechs and payments. You're not going to tell them about tiered KYC. For them, they know KYC should be standard for everybody, and that's their mentality. So I think it needs a regulator who is going to come in and who understands the mobility of fintechs and the goal of financial inclusion and things like that. But there has to be that mindset shift. Otherwise, this will remain a dream.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me cross to James to share with us what you think on this particular moving further.
All right, thank you so much. Not to be so different from my co-panelist. Some of us have already developed such principles like transparency, KYC, but of course, like he has said, if you don't have a national ID, you cannot transact. And it becomes very hard because now getting a national ID will take you about 3 or even a year, because I registered for mine in 2014 and I got it this year. So you can imagine how long it takes you to do that. So I think, like he said, we need a body that is there to, that is well versed with financial technology, with fintechs, so that, yeah, we can proceed with them.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, like you said, you registered in 2014. I bet you're soon going back to register for the electronic one. Okay, let's move to Ivan to share with us in less than a minute, and then I see if Nicholas has got questions.
I'll reiterate what my colleagues have said, and just for me, and a good thing Brian from FITSPA is here, just for more and more lobbying from industry groups, but also importantly, as a player in the market, just keep on moving ahead. The regulator will catch up eventually. As simple as that.
Okay.
Because, for example, they've had that EKYC project on their books for a very long time with a company called Laboramus, and up to now I do not see anything as far as implementation is concerned. So just keep on moving ahead, and the regulator will eventually catch up.
Thank you so much. Nicholas.
I thank you, Rita, for hosting this very educative panel around regulation. Rita Kabanyolo is from 901 Studio. She has done a great job today. Emma is from NITA Uganda, National Information Technology Association of Uganda. They do a lot of work in technology. They are doing amazing things, but of course they can do better, just like all of us. Brian is my clanmate. He's called Kalule, and I'm called Kalunji. So he's my clanmate, my brother per se. He's the Secretary General of FITSPA, the Financial Service Providers Association of Uganda. FITSPA has over more than 50-60 members. It is doing a lot of work for advocating for a better environment for the financial technology stakeholders, but importantly for the end users. All of you in this room that haven't registered to be members of FITSPA, the team from FITSPA is available. You can speak to them. I saw Esther around and her team. If you want to register, you can register and enjoy the benefits of the community. Because a project like ours is a very important project, but even again, the community is also important because we learn from one another. So Brian there is the company secretary that usually offers the legal guidance that FITSPA needs. We have Ivan Ojakol, who is a tech lawyer and a lecturer, very active in sports. I always see his columns in Daily Monitor. He's also active in Kenyan politics. I have a bet with him, which I'm winning for all right reasons. That's why he came with through the stalls and see what your competitors or your partners in the industry are doing. You see where to compete and where to collaborate. Next on the agenda, which is the final element of the agenda, we're going to have a Thanksgiving speech from our patron, Honorable Kalubanga. Then we shall read out those that came a little late and were not able to receive their certificates from the State Minister of ICT. Honorable Kalbanga will give out those certificates, after which we shall have a group photo of all the participants with our patron. Allow me to take this opportunity to invite Honorable David Kalbanga to give closing and thanksgiving remarks on behalf of High People. Thank you very much. Yes, and please, as we wind up, don't forget to feast on your lunch. Don't leave it for the hotel. You must have your lunch before you leave. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all for this great exhibition. And indeed, thank you for being here up to now. This morning, we had the Minister of State for ICT, Honorable Joyce Nabosa, and indeed, she graced the occasion. She gave us the position of government as far as collaboration and supporting fintechs is concerned. Mine here as a patron is a simple task. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants for the wonderful work you have put forward. I'd like to thank the partners, great partners, for the support they've given to this exhibition since it started. The over 47 fintechs which have participated, we really say thank you. And indeed, your role is recognized. We've had the panelists here. The only problem I have with the panelists, you've remained at the top level there, and I think you forgot that we are being watched all over through BBS Telefina and other media outlets. You are professionals, but we want this message, the knowledge you have, to go to the people down there who are watching. And I think next time you try to simplify things for us who are not gurus in the fintechs. Indeed, I'd like to thank the organizers, the CEO, High People, the CEO, Innocent, and your team. You have really been great. You were recently voted as the #1 promoter, I think, and indeed that was very good. What you are doing is great. Government has not been up to the task of doing what you are doing. Indeed, on that note, I would like to call upon you to further promote the collaboration between the different fintechs with government. I know the Financial Payment System Act 2020 was passed, and the regulations, you should be keen, all those who are in the fintech industry, you should be keen to look at the regulations, because these ones, after the act, the minister sits down to look at the regulations. You need to see how they are impacting on the industry and how they are supporting your innovations. Like I've always said, government has come out to support all those innovations, because indeed you supplement government efforts in many ways, service delivery. These digital payment platforms have really promoted financial inclusion, and many others, like in the agriculture sector, and many others. So government is going to continue supporting you. The government has set up an innovation hub, and indeed there are funds which are set aside to give to those whom I could call enthusiasts in innovation. And I think that one the minister should have talked about it. Through the means of ICT, government has been promoting innovation. With those many words, indeed I would like to thank you all, thank the Honorable Minister for gracing us, the partners, the organizers, participants, the panelists, and indeed I would like to say thank you. You all need a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Before you go, I'll request you to hand over these certificates, and we do 2 group photos, one with you, the patron, and the panelists, and one with all the participants. Without wasting so much time, Tic-Tac, please pick your certificate. Silicon Pay, please pick your certificate. Council Code, should please pick your certificate. Yes, those are the ones that didn't receive early in the morning, so they can, please, you pick, you go to the minister. This is Council Code. Yes, followed by Silicon Pay and Tic-Tac. In the same spirit, yes, the camera team should be on standby. Let me now invite all the participants who received their, okay, before I invite, should I invite the participants first or the panelists? Yes, let me invite all the participants who took part and you received your certificates. Please come in front. Peter, you should stay. Let us take one group photo with the patron. Then after, we invite the panelists and our advisor on the next agenda on the program. Yes, let me have all Silicon Pay stay behind. All the participants who are having certificates should come in front and we take one photo. Tic-Tac, stay in front. Let us take one photo with the Honorable Minister. We do one straight line from the other side to this side and take one group photo. Yes, we have Kuzimba Online, Tic-Tac, CardPesa, Medmo, Better Beauty, MFS Africa, Easy Agric, Linmat, Merchandise Uganda, Zovikash, Mufuko Plus, Kau Uganda. We have FutureLink Technologies. We have AgriShare. We have Pivot Payments, call it Pivot Pay. We have Airtel. All of you please come in front and we take a photo with our patron, the High People patron, the person that leads the team at High People from the advisory level, the one that makes sure we don't go astray in our financial inclusion efforts. Let us take one group photo, then the panelists will follow. All right, let me also invite, the CEO is doing an interview, the Hypo CEO, but we shall do the photo. We can do 2 lines.
I think let's have another team come down. Yeah, come down, then another one, as some of us get closer. Yeah. Others let's be down and then the rest be more people down so that we have more space down. We have more space down. Lord Mayor, also please join the photo.
Yes, Austin, ensure you have a photo that has everyone captured. Otherwise, tebajja kusasula. Mumutima mulungi. Yes, Austin, let's do this. Thank you.
Yes. kibagenda kubanga ate bamisinga mu bavubuka abo kuba jatunulira game yasembyeyo impact yaabwe tewabaddewo kyamanyi kya nnyo naddala mukiri kyebagezezaako kubanga bazimba Julian Nejosman kyagezaako kubanga ate azimba ekyo